What's up you guys, and welcome back to another Reddit reading video. We've been getting some comments lately about my reading, and hopefully pretty soon I'll have my braces off next month if we keep our fingers crossed. And also, I'm gonna try reading these stories one at a time and then take a short little break in between so, my mouth can get some time to like re-salivate so I don't have to keep drinking water in between every goddamn paragraph. So hopefully these stories will go better. Let's try and keep the quality great on the stories. Oh yeah, this is Ultimate Revenge Challenge, Petty Revenge, ProRevenge, Nuclear Revenge. Let's get it. Don't touch Grandpa's OJ. When my grandpa was alive, he owned a house with some property, enough acreage to put some trailers on it, and rented them out. Unfortunately, some tenants can be some real McJerkholes, and a couple of his trailers was full of such jerkholes. You know, the types, noisy, messy, late with the rent, etc. Granddaddy was one of those angels on earth, give you the shirt off his back and everything. He certainly didn't deserve those screws treatment and was still patient with him. The worst thing they did was come into his house, his personal property, and raid his fridge. I absolutely feel if those people needed food help and asked, he would have given it to them. But really, the way my mom tells it, these people were just snacking. And guess what? He didn't do anything about it at all. He just let them come and go and didn't say a word. Until they made the fateful mistake of drinking all of his orange juice. Oh, no. Do not leave no orange juice for my grandpa. It was time to teach a lesson. So without hesitation, he produced a powerful laxative and spiked the next orange juice carton. They tell me it seemed like those people had green apple splatters for 2 days and never raided the fridge again. Ew, green apple splatter? Who describes it like that? Disgusting. Awesome job to Grandpa though for finally setting up for himself. I can't stand when people just tread on people that are like soft-spoken or like aren't aggressive enough to tell people that they want something. That's kind of why I'm friends with introverts too. I'm an extrovert, but then I like having the back of my introvert friends, and I'm like, get off of their back, yo. On to the next story of ProRevenge. This was posted only 1 hour ago. Ex-boss tried to screw me on unemployment. I thought I'd celebrate my cake day with my best revenge ever. This is a long story, so just stick with me though. It's worth it, I promise. Backstory, so 20-ish years ago, I worked for a small non-profit. I had worked there for years and loved my job. There was less than 10 employees at any given time I worked there, including the married couple who ran it, and we pretty much always got along. At the same time, I also developed their websites, using a program called NetObjects as a side job. There was no way related to my daily work there. I was paid for the web work as an independent contractor. Well, the couple retired and in comes a new guy, George. I freaking hate George. Before they've even gone, he's just ripping them all over the place for no reason. It's not like they were a threat to him or anything. They had been successfully running this place for years, so they weren't as big of a jerk as he wanted people to believe. He was so toxic about everything. He ended up dividing the office into his buddies and then everyone else. You either kissed his butt or you got junk for it. He would come in and have the most inappropriate conversation about his sexual antics during his college days, how his wife is in bed, how much he could drink and still be okay to drive, etc. A couple of us complained to the board of directors, but they were going to throw out their new executive director over a little smut talk. Shame. I hated watching all the wonderful things we had done as a group die in a slow death under this guy. He didn't like me either, and it got to where I hated going to work every day, so I started looking for other options. I ended up going back to school and doing night classes. I kept it quiet at work though, I didn't tell anyone. It was pretty stressful. I had a young child at the time, and I missed her a lot since I worked all day and went to school nearly every night. I had been making it though, and I was about 3 months from finishing my program. One day, I got called into his office alongside the accountant HR person, his #1 crony. I knew it was coming, and honestly, I was just relieved. Sure enough, they told me I was being laid off. They gave me a check for 2 weeks' pay with payment in lieu of notice written on the memo, a packet of information about applying for unemployment and education resources, etc. Then they told me I could clear up my desk and leave. They were both smiling at me like they had just given me a bonus. So I responded the same and said, "Oh, this is such a relief. I've been going to night school and everything has been so stressful. Now I'll be able to relax and finish my program without the stress. Thank you." The man turned purple. He was so obviously pissed, I was worried for a second he'd come across the desk. He obviously had expected a different reaction from me. He ground out his teeth that obviously my service as a web developer was no longer needed, and I was not to produce any more work. no skin off my nose. I hadn't figured to continue my web work anymore. Things were brought to a pretty quick close after that, and in less than 15 minutes, I left a place I had worked and loved for years for the last time. So life went on, I continued my classes and filed for unemployment. A few weeks later, I get a notice from my unemployment, got denied. What? The paperwork said I had been fired. Well, that can't be right. So I called the UI office. The nice man I talked to found my case and stated that yes, George's written response did indeed say that I had been fired, making me ineligible for unemployment. I guess George had wanted a little revenge for me not giving him a reaction he wanted. I told the man about my packet and my check. He asked me to send copies of everything I had and would open an appeal. He said with the check memo, it was obvious I hadn't been fired and it would be straightforward appeal. But it would still take a few more weeks, and in the meantime, I have no income. Not long after, maybe a few days, I get a call from George. He says I have a new web developer, and they need my files in order to maintain the database. Otherwise, they would have to rebuild it from the ground up, and that would be crazy expensive for them. I told him all the files were uploaded to the web server. They have everything. He kept making comments about me withholding their property, and rather than try to explain the internet to this moron, I told him, fine, I would mail them the CD of the files right away. I went to my computer and got their website on my internet. I saved the entire thing to an HTML file, put it on a CD, and mailed it off. A couple days later, I got another call. He says he got the CD, but it's not what he needed. I told him the entire website was on that CD, but it wasn't good enough. They wanted my working files, and this time they had given him instructions about what to ask for. See, in NetObjects, you created everything you wanted for your website. You had to publish your creation in order to make the HTML files. So I basically had NetObjects file that was their website, and without that file, you weren't going to do anything to that website. But that file is huge, and it wouldn't fit on a CD. It needed to be backed up to be compressed, then I could send it to him. I told him it would take me a bit of time, and I've just been crazy busy lately dealing with my appeal. Did you know my unemployment was denied? He played dumb, like he didn't do that on purpose. So I asked him if I could possibly get help in that situation straightened out, because if that went on my plate, I'd have all the time in the world to get him the files he needs. Of course, he's happy to help. Right. We get off the phone, and a little bit later, the nice gentleman from the UI office called me. He told me that George had called him and told him I was not fired, that he must have put in the wrong paperwork for me. They made him rectify in writing that he had faxed them the correct statement. So my unemployment was approved, and I was going to be getting my first check, including my back payments, within a week. Whoop! Then George called me again. He said he'd gotten everything straightened out with him, and could I please run the backup ASAP and overnight the CD to them. I'm sorry, running a backup would constitute producing more work, and I don't work for you any longer. And I hung up. Never heard from him again. But less than a year later, he was fired and it was taken over by a management company. Oh my goodness, that is some good revenge right there. That guy got totally screwed, and he totally deserved that. What really sucks is that it was kind of a lose-lose, because she really, or he, I'm not sure, was that a girl or a boy, they really loved that job before, you can tell by how they described it and their managers and all that. And then like new management can make or break a job, really. Like anyone that's worked in like retail or like, you know, minimum wage or any kind of job like that where management is right next to you can honestly tell you that working with bad management can make you quit off the rip. Proud of this young fella for getting their good revenge though. What do you think? Was that pro revenge? Was that a pro move? I feel like yes, that was a pro move. The last one, actually, now that I think about it, the last story wasn't that petty. He kind of deserved to do that to them. Number 1, screw toxic managers. Number 2, on to the next story. Nuclear revenge time. Entitled engineer makes a mistake he will regret for the rest of his life. This is a story that I thankfully didn't witness, but my coworker did. An engineer relocated with his wife to a small town while he supervised a local engineering project. He had 3 daughters who lived in the neighboring city and would visit him constantly. While he wasn't exactly rich, he was considerably wealthier than the average habitant of his little town. This made him and his wife extremely entitled. He would do as he pleased and then bribe the police to avoid repercussions. He made himself infamous for cheating on his wife constantly. One day, he laid his eyes on a local 18-year-old girl. The girl didn't like him back, so she rejected him. One day, he got drunk and forced himself on the poor girl. He hurt her so bad. The girl was left in a wheelchair for life. The girl's father tried to bring him to justice, but the engineer used whatever money he had to bribe the police. What not many people knew is this girl's uncle was a local drug lord. The father and the uncle hadn't spoken for years, and the girl hadn't even met her uncle. But when the drug lord learned what happened to his niece, he decided he would have his revenge. A few weeks later, my coworker was working as a gardener for the engineer when the cries of a young woman caught everyone's attention. Outside the engineer's house were drug lord's men who had captured the engineer's daughter in front of the engineer and his wife. The men used machetes to cut off the daughter's legs. There was blood everywhere, but the worst was the cries of the 3 women. They were rushed to the hospital, but 2 of them bled to death on the way, while the 3rd was left, obviously wheelchair bound for life. While my coworker has since left the town, he says people told him the engineer's wife hasn't said a single word since that day. Edit: people have asked me for news coverage on this event. This story happened on the opening years of the drug war in northern Mexico, a time with both the government and the drug lords did everything within the power to keep the news like this from being published. I will try to find some and ask my coworker, but I can't promise anything. Oh man, that sucks. While that was happening, I was thinking this cannot be in the US. Like, there's no way you could get away with something like that. But man, it's a bad day to be that guy's daughter. Like, yeah, it was revenge, and yeah, it was nuclear, but they got the revenge like on the wrong person. Why didn't they do it to the dad? Jeez, it's kind of actually a sad story. Like, it's crazy that that stuff kind of happens. I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to, word around some of the things they were saying so we could get monetized. By the end of that, with cutting off people's stuff, I don't think this video is getting monetized. Anyways, I read the story for you. So if you like it, hit the like and subscribe. Comment down below if you thought that was nuclear. Like, I really think that was nuclear. It is literally 2:24 a.m. and I just feel like making a video, so we're just gonna go ahead and do this. To you, it's probably literally like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and if you're watching this after I post this, it's probably 2 a.m. because we get a spike in our views at 2 a.m. So what's up, my 2 a.m. viewers? This sub was actually suggested. We got it from Aiden. Thank you so much for the suggestion, Aiden. We're gonna go over this sub and tell me if you guys like it. It's r/I don't work here, lady. It's pretty much weirdo customers mistaking random citizens for employees. We're gonna start out with, is there a male version of Karen? I think I encountered the male version of a Karen. I was at a bank today and I was waiting in the lobby, waiting to speak to the mortgage lender. Though I do not work at this bank, I do work in the financial sector. Because of my job, I wear a suit and a tie. He, male Karen, approached me while I'm sitting at the waiting room. He must have assumed that I was an employee of the bank and started asking me about opening up a savings account, in which I replied, "Sir, I do not work here." He lost his mind. He started raising his voice and demanding to speak with the manager. The worst part is that his grandchild, I presume, were present when their old cranky grandfather started to throw a temper tantrum in a bank. I could tell you the grandchildren were embarrassed. One of the ladies behind the counter then moved to his direction to attempt to handle the situation, but he became even louder and more immature when she asked him if he could help. This jerk, me, told me he's not going to help me, and now I'm going to take my business somewhere else. Her response, "Sir, he does not work here." His response, "Well then who does?" Her, "I do." Him, "I want to speak to the manager." I cannot contain myself. I was laughing so loudly. What? How are you gonna complain that some random guy doesn't work here? Hey, that guy doesn't work here, so I'm angry. What kind of sense does that even make, sir? Cora Bell says they are known as a Richard, as the nickname is Dick. That's actually, that is a good name for the male Karen. I never even knew that. You learn something new every day, huh? After all this Reddit scrolling, you think I would have known what the male version of a Karen was, huh? This is like reliving my days back at Walmart, just reading these crazy customer stories. I did actually read a few stories beforehand just to see what this sub was all about. Usually I don't do that, but this one I was bored and I wanted to read, and I think that's what made me want to read now at 2:28 a.m. Well, that only took like 2 minutes to read. The next story is, my daughter does not work here. Not sure if this fits exactly, but they were asking kids to do the job teachers should be doing, so I think it works. When my sister was in 2nd or 3rd grade, the teachers had this dumb policy where they would have the kids who were doing well in school assigned to help the kids who were struggling. One time, my sister was told to help a kid with spelling things. He decided to write a nasty note to someone in the class and ask my sister how to spell things. She didn't know what he was writing. All she knew was she was supposed to help him with spelling the right things. She never saw what he was writing, just would tell him how to spell words that he asked her. Anyway, he passed a rude note and was caught. When the teacher confronted him, he said, "Sister helped me do it." So my sister got in trouble as well, and the note was sent home with my mom, explaining that she was in trouble. I think it was like a written warning or something. When my mom got the note and asked my sister for the whole story, she was pissed. My sister was a good kid, and a bit naive. There is no way that she was involved, and the teacher had assigned her to help the kid with his spelling. My mom went into the school and yelled at the teacher in the office. She made it very clear that her kid is no longer allowed to be assigned to help other kids. If the teachers couldn't handle it on their own, maybe they needed to hire more instead of making good students in class do their job, especially if they were going to get in trouble for doing exactly what they were asked to do. OMG, that is like That is like the worst thing when you do exactly what you were told and you get in trouble for it. That poor little girl, she was probably so confused. Okay, first of all, she's working off of the clock. She deserves the paycheck for that. I don't care what age she is. If she's doing a teacher's job, then what the heck? That's why they have like over-racial classes in schools like that, where you can only have a certain amount of kids to teachers because there's only one teacher. What they really should have done was just hired a minimum wage assistant teacher that could have helped the little kids that needed help. That's not, come on, $7.25 or up to $13 if this is in the US. That's not that much to help the kids learn instead of having some poor genius kids dumb themselves down. Not that the other kid was dumb, but these kids want to learn too. Kids want to learn. This one is XL, so it better mean it's really good, or that just means I'm reading a really long, bad story. I'm not Santa's elf, I'm just lost on the way to get to the Christmas card photos. The other day, my mother wanted my siblings and I to do some Christmas card photos. She had a nice list of what she wanted, and while it annoyed us, it always made her really happy when we posed for Christmas card photos as a nice family. This year, she wanted us to dress like elves. Well, us kids anyway. So I got into my elf costume. It's Christmas time, and I've seen a lot of stranger stuff than wandering elf this time of year, so I head to the mall. I am late, I rush up and look for the direction to see where I can find the photo place. Yeah, I should have been on time. I'm trying to figure out the location when I hear someone clearing their throat. I shuffle over a bit. Maybe I'm blocking their view? The throat clearing again. Maybe this person is sick? I reach in my coat pocket. Need a cough drop? I ask as I turn around holding up a cough drop. There was a rather annoyed looking woman. About time! Where is Santa? Demanded the woman. Excuse me? I replied. Where is Santa? Snapped the woman. The North Pole? Downstairs? Out till lunch? On a date with Mrs. Claus? How should I know? I said as I listed random things as I thought of them. The woman crossed her arms. Seriously? Are you just trying to mess with me? Growled the woman. That's when I noticed a small little girl dressed to the nines next to her. No, I am, I started. An elf? You should know where Santa is. He is downstairs, and we're in a hurry. Call him. My daughter wants to see him, growled the woman. I looked at this woman and to the little girl. I didn't want to burst the little girl's bubble, but I didn't have the time to deal with this. Oh, sorry miss, you got the wrong division of elf. I'm not a part of this appearance or guard duty, so I don't deal with Santa. I'm in charge of the reindeer. Vixen is picky, and I was gonna pick her up a treat. So I was trying to find the store on here for a reindeer. You know, this place isn't very reindeer friendly. I started and began to yammer on about reindeer as I shuffled around the sign. Well, I'd love to say in chat, but if I slouch, Mrs. Claus will have my hide. Toodles, I said, and then legged out of there. I could hear her yell after me, but I didn't look back. After a bit, I found the photo studio and took the photos. I told my siblings about the whole thing, and my brother had this to say. Your own dumb fault for dressing like an elf. Maybe I am at fault. What? He had to dress like an elf. Well, that sounds like I don't work here lady to me, but that's funny. It's nice that this guy like went along with the little girl. Even though the lady was like a little Karen and a jerk, he still went on with the whole charade and acted like he was an actual elf. That probably the girl was probably like, oh, elves are still so nice and Santa is still real. And if you're watching this and you're a kid, Santa is real. And if you're watching this if you're an adult, Santa is real. This is actually a pretty good sub. I like these stories here. I've never had an encounter like this. If you ever had an encounter like this, let me know down below. This is probably a very niche encounter. Not a lot of people encounter it. And then when it happens to them, they look it up and they find this sub and they're like, I'm going to tell my story. So if you had any of these encounters, just let me know down below. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I actually really like this sub. If you got any suggestions, just let me know down below. I take pretty much every single suggestion that we had. If you want to watch some revenge stories or some compliance stories, view here, view here. We're going to be doing a Christmas revenge. All Christmas stories on all r/ProRevenge. Let's get into it, ho 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 style. So you want me to fire everyone at the Christmas party? Okay then. Many years ago, early 1980s, I worked for a company that did what I call mall molesting. They did market research surveys in the mall and were always stopping people to ask questions, etc. The company was run by 3 older women who had started it in their kitchen. They were opinionated, and no one had cared about anything but money. Part of this included paying employees not by the hour, but by the survey, which was against labor rules as it never matched the basic hourly wage. This is important. Christmas came. We were planning our employee party when one of the owners called and told us that in order to avoid paying bonuses, we were to fire everyone at the party and then hire back the ones that we liked after the new year. We, the other managers and I, talked about it. And then I called the Federal Bureau of Labor, who had been trying to get information for the employee pay for several years, but had always been turned away. I had them come to the back door and then let them into the file room. and then showed them the boxes. I then said I had things to do in the front and would be back later, and went to the front desk to finish the paperwork I needed. Said paperwork? A blow up of Santa going down a chimney with Merry effing Christmas typed across it. All of the management resignations and the FedEx envelope that would hold our keys and said paperwork. Labor guy finished what he needed to do, we locked up, sent the package which was timed to arrive at the Christmas party, and walked away. The company ended up spending about $250,000 in reimbursements and fines for the labor problem. That's exactly what shady businesses like this get. That's it's kind of a problem with small businesses. Some of them can be pretty shady and try to do things off the cuff to save their own pockets and not trying to pay out their employees or taxes or anything like that. Not saying that big companies don't do that too. Now, but what kind of ho would fire everyone at a Christmas party? How rude. You couldn't do it like a couple days after Christmas or something? And then hire them on the New Year? I don't understand where they're saving money at. I don't know if maybe because of pay time off or something like that. But why would you come back to a business like this where you're like, I can get fired at any time at a freaking Christmas party along with the rest of everyone else? Terrible business. 0 to 10. Exposing my sister-in-law over her hating my family with a bit of help from her father Christmas. Throwaway because this doesn't need linking to anything or anyone else. Apologies for the long length. My twin brother, 25, has been with his wife since we were 15, and they've been married for the last year. Since day one, my sister-in-law hasn't been a fan of my family. She and my brother met doing the same after-school club, a club that my best friend happened to also be in. She always used to say that my sister-in-law always complained about my family, my mother, my father, and myself, and how we all treated her terribly. Though when she asked, she would never go into detail, because there was no detail. In fact, for the first few years of their relationship, my sister-in-law was a daughter my mother wished she had had, which strained our relationship, unsurprisingly, but not the time for that. She was happy enough to be around us, and my parents always made sure to include her on the family occasions, such as our birthdays. Since we're all like 15 and moody teenagers, if it ever comes up in conversation, my brother sulking about something and throwing out a line about how he understands why his girlfriend never wants to be around, or me and my mother arguing and me saying something about how girlfriend hates her, it's not taken as gospel. The years go by and my brother and sister-in-law stay together through universities 150 miles apart and move in together at about the 6-year mark of their relationship. I lived at home for a year after my brother moved out, and during that time I witnessed numerous occasions of my brother being around for dinner that both him and his girlfriend have been invited to, with just him attending for a variety of cheap excuses that have been cut short because sister-in-law rings my brother up telling him he has to come home because of X, Y, and Z. While some of these may have been genuine, every time he was around over half an hour, he got the calls and messages saying that her world was imploding if she didn't come home right this instant. I think my parents politely excused the behavior as young love because it was an obvious shun. My brother especially was cut off. Every month, she'd invite sister-in-law out for a girls' date, either with or without me or other family members, and was always told no. After the wedding, which none of our side of the family was allowed to be involved in, not an issue though, it was hurtful that we were told that nothing family was happening. Examples, dancing, speeches, but in fact were only on the sister-in-law side of the family while we just sat there awkwardly. I got a few messages from mutual friends of myself and my brother asking what the drama was between us and the sister-in-law, who had evidently been telling people that all night we had done awful things throughout the wedding process, and her new husband were on the verge of going no contact with us. Something we hadn't heard at all from our brother or her, since we were very much still in contact with him. Well, him. A couple had thought it was odd that she was saying this, and forwarded screenshots of sister-in-law telling them awful stories of complete lies about things that happened between her and us. My favorite was the supposed time when my father, the most placid man in Britain, stormed around their house demanding that they give him hundreds in cash to cover his gambling debts, while my mother threw salt around the garden trying to kill the grass. No reason for this given. My father has never gambled anything more than a couple of pounds on a lottery. They don't even have grass around their house to begin with. And most of all, my parents were both out of the country at the time that the sister-in-law sent the OMG, you will not believe what brother's family just did message to at least 2 of my friends. I'm not a petty person, and I didn't go around all guns a-blazing, but the next time I saw my parents, I said that it seemed like the sister-in-law was spreading potentially harmful lies. They did both say that they knew that sister-in-law didn't seem to like them, but decided many years ago to try and kill her with kindness, if only not to give her real ammunition against them. I decided to sit on what I had evidence-wise, unless sister-in-law did something major. The major came over Christmas. For years and years, my brother and sister-in-law had rotated between her family and my family. This year was supposed to be the day with my family, They live in the same town as both of their families, so it wouldn't be a massive journey for anyone to go anywhere. I live with my partner about a half an hour from my family, and we were also going to be spending the lunch with my family. Partner's family are from a country who do their main Christmas stuff on Christmas Eve, so we were seeing both sets of family over the period. We get there bright and early on Christmas Day to find our brother there, alone. I ask where his sister-in-law is, and I'm told that she's having family emergency, but will be over before the meal. No issues there. Family emergency or not, we all get prepping the meal. My brother's phone starts ringing the whole time. He stops answering after a period of time, and a particularly long call prior to that went outside for, and confirms that it's sister-in-law. However, it's just her phone messing up and consistently calling the last number on the call list. A bit of junk excuse, well whatever. The ringing eventually stops. By this point, my brother's off playing with one of my dad's old cars and everything's in the oven, so we chill out for a while and look on social media at the easy cheesy Christmas present post. Myself and my partner are just scrolling away, comparing friends' presents, when my partner's screen comes up with a post by sister-in-law into a Facebook group called something like Murderous Mothers-in-Law Support Group. We assumed that we were blocked from seeing the sister-in-law's post, but she had let my partner slip through the net. It had only been posted about 5 minutes before. The post went something like this: husband is forcing me to go to his horrid family's Christmas dinner. They make me do all the cooking on my own, but tell me it's horrible. His sister's even assaulted me the last time I went to their house, and she's been kicked out of rehab, so she's back there again. I'm scared that every day husband is going to believe their lies about me and leave me. I'd rather kill myself than do this. Can I get some support, ladies? Utter poop. We all cook, with my father doing the lion's share if anyone could be considered as doing more than average. I've never been addicted to any substance, and like my parents had said before, they never said a cross word about sister-in-law to anyone, so she couldn't claim they did. This was it for me. I excused myself and went up to the office to print off copies of the message she had sent to friends previously, and the post of the group that my partner screenshot at my request. I printed enough copies for everyone at the table, 10 were in there total, and wrapped them all up in groups. I then stuck some labels onto them, as being from Father Christmas. I slipped them downstairs and put them under the tree, claiming there were some more gifts I had found, just to say that everyone there was an adult, so there wouldn't be any child there thinking Father Christmas was a jerkhole. The day continues. Sister-in-law arrives and apologizes for the delay. Everyone says that it's not a problem, and the food gets cooked, served, and eaten. We've always opened presents after lunch, so everyone gets set up with each other's presents, as well as the mystery Father Christmas present that everyone seemed to get. Everyone eventually opened the Father Christmas presents and started to read, before asking sister-in-law what she means by being a horrid family. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law all quickly open theirs and read them through. Sister-in-law goes as white as a sheet and starts asking him who did this, but my brother tells her that she brought this on herself and she's gone too far. My parents say nothing to anyone, and eventually sister-in-law excuses herself. My brother says that since the day they started dating, she decided that our family hate her and that she spent years trying to prove it, ranging from the order their names are written in cards to the number of potatoes she served at a meal. She obviously has no evidence since there is none. My brother had no clue about the messages or Facebook groups, but expected there to be many more. He decided to leave, apologize, and got in contact about half an hour later, saying that we were both at home and stable, since the kill myself part had worried my brother especially. I kept quiet about my role in this until everyone else had left. My mother suspected it was me, but said she was happy that it would actually be out in the open. I apologized profusely for ruining the day before we left. None of this was my finest moment, which I'm sure some of you reading will agree with. My brother has been in contact with my parents and me to further apologize for everything sister-in-law has said and done, and said he wasn't making any rash decisions yet, but they needed to sit and talk about everything. I'm sure some people think that this is sympathetic of a bigger issue of control concerning my brother and his life and might be justifying sister-in-law's views on us, but I did this more out of anger at the situation more than the person herself. And this is the first and only instance of my family being negative to her. I hope this has made her think about her choices, and that she can work on reasoning, and that she can work on the reason on why she lied to herself and others for so many years. Oh my goodness, that's a lot to unpack right there. First of all, this was 11 months ago, this was last Christmas, but my God, she is like a master manipulator. You ever heard of those people that just manipulate the person that they quote unquote love to try and do everything they say? You can tell this is one of those people just fabricating lies to make up and trying to get everyone on her side, no matter who it is, trying to get sympathy. I've been with someone like that. You don't want to be with nothing like that. That is a terrible life to live. She seems like a horrific person, someone that you have to pawn off on someone else to get rid of her. I promise you, if they decided to get a divorce, she's gonna try and ruin that man's life, and he probably knows that too. You have to be an extremely docile person to try and deal with someone like that, or extremely accepting of someone else's flaws. I feel bad for that man. I feel bad for that entire family. The only person I do not feel bad is for that woman. Hopefully the guy gets a divorce. He deserves a break after 15 years of being with this ho 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 Santa style. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this Christmas revenge story. Thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope you guys have an awesome Christmas and have fun opening presents. If you guys don't celebrate Christmas, then have a happy Kwanzaa, happy holidays, whatever you guys got going on. Everyone's different. Entitled parent tries to take my dog to the dog park. The cast: EM, entitled mother; EK, entitled kid; HM, handsome man, me. So this all happened like 3 months ago. My dog is a golden retriever, so she loves people and exploring. So anyways, my dog doesn't get out a lot, so when she does, she goes wild. I finally got to the dog park, and when I arrived, I walked in and let her off the leash. The second I did, she bolted away. The park has a 2-fin system, so dogs can't just run straight out. So anyways, after like 15 minutes of watching her run around with the other dogs, up comes EM with EK. I'm sitting at the table watching the dogs play with a couple other pet owners when EM walked up to my dog and puts a leash on her. In my head, I was saying to myself, please no, please no, please no. I tried to stay positive, but thinking that my dog was irritating hers, but I quickly found out that that wasn't the case. As EM starts walking to the fence with EK, I block her path. She replies with, can I help you? I'm trying to leave with my dog. Outraged that I was being downright lied to, I try to take the leash off my dog's collar. The woman replies, excuse me? I'm trying to leave with my dog and you're stealing him. For your information, my dog is a female and she's mine, is how I reply. The crazy woman starts shouting and screaming that I'm stealing her dog from her and for someone to call the police. But the people that I was sitting with knew that she was mine because we spent 15 minutes talking. They walk over and suggest that we call the police and try and clear this up. So after my newfound friend's call, the police arrived within 5 minutes. Excuse me, can we clear something up here? Yes, so I didn't get the fence before EM cut me off. I was at the dog park and this crazy person tried to take my dog. The others helped me out by arguing that she knows she's mine. Then I suggest a bright idea, that we can check the tag on her collar and call the phone number. The policeman agrees and leans down to my dog. He calls the number on his phone and look at that, my phone rings. I answer the call from the policeman. The lady was asked to leave the park because she didn't own a dog and was there for no reason. She tries to fight but ends up leaving. Long story short, I don't go to the dog park and the woman tries to take my dog. We call the police and the dog is proven to be mine. My goodness, I can't imagine if someone tried to steal my dog. Like, I don't even know if I'd be able to control myself. I love my dogs too much. They're like my kids. Like, they're just sitting here looking at me right now. I'm like, if I saw someone walking off with them, I'd just attack them. I'd go into crazy mode. Someone said you should have pressed charges. I know, I would have taken that to like the fullest extent. Like, you tried to steal. Like, dogs are seen as property in the law though, so you have to do like stolen property, which is kind of sad. They're not seen as like living things. Like, if someone kills your dog, it's like they're damaged property, which is like, that's sad. I didn't know that one was so short. Let's read like one more little entitled parents. Entitled mother's OMG wedding speech. Short and maybe not so sweet. A couple years ago, an old friend from high school invited me to her wedding. During the toast, her new mother-in-law got up with the intention to give a speech. Now these usually go something like, welcome to the family, or I'm glad my son found love, etc. I'm not even going to try to recreate what she said, but she started out by saying the bride was incredibly lucky to be marrying her son. And then she went on a 15-minute long ramble on why her son was such an amazing, perfect person. Spoiler alert, it's because she raised him and because he respects his parents. She then proceeds to remind the bride in front of everyone that respecting your parents is the most important thing in a marriage. What? She also told her that now it's her job to take care of her son, just like she had taken care of him. Anyway, all the bride side of the party just sat there stunned. Meanwhile, the mother-in-law's sister was crying because it was such a beautiful speech. Wow, that is entitlement. That is one entitled mother. Now, I got married pretty young, and actually I still am young, I haven't been married that long. But what my mom told me was the most important thing was that we were in it together. Like, what she told me is, no one comes above your spouse, to my wife, and to me she said no one comes above your spouse. Until like we have kids, if we ever want to have kids. Which I don't know if I want to, I don't know. Anyways, what she was saying pretty much is, it's us against everything. So like, you pick your spouse over a problem, you pick your spouse over your parents, you pick your spouse over anything. That was her, like, how she said that was the most important thing. That's what my mom told me. But anyways, that is going to be all the stories for today, but I am going to ramble just a little bit longer. I want you guys to be brutally honest. Like, do you not like this little moon thing? The way I'm talking right now, I haven't even edited this together yet, so hopefully this turns out better than I expect. If it doesn't, we can always go back to the old way. Either way, I'm probably not going to be changing my sprite on the channel, like the Reddit reading logo channel with the R's as my eyes. I probably won't be changing that to like a moon or anything like that. I just thought maybe we could spice this up and see how it goes. If it doesn't go good, we can always go back. If you guys have any suggestions for subs that you want me to cover, or like any topics or anything like that, just let me know down below in the comments. I take almost every suggestion that I get, honestly, since we're still pretty small. Also, thank you guys for watching the entire video. That helps me out so much. I'm recently monetized, like really recently monetized. We have made, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but $30. Wow, big money, boy. That's how we do. Anyways, I'm trying to start like maybe a Patreon or something, and like put people's names in the videos and like release my videos early on Patreon or something like that. Something to keep this channel like above the water and like being able to float by itself, so it's not just like me reading and getting 1 cent a video, which is a lot of my videos are made 1 to 2 cents. Sad to say, but I want to be honest with you guys. That's what it is. Like the 3 videos I have are the only reason that it's double-digit dollars, to tell you the truth. If you have any suggestion or any advice, if you know anything about YouTube, know anything about like things that I should be doing, or if you have like any suggestions on how I can improve. I know that I do like lisp some of my words up. I know I don't pronounce everything just right. Like my lips sometimes, this is getting kind of weird. I know I'm gonna ramble. I am rambling. My lips don't like close all the way all the time, and also like the lisp is because all that's because of my braces right now. So hopefully when I get my braces off and I'm able to like have a retainer and just take it out, I'll be able to talk a lot better. I know 50% of the comments are pretty much people just cussing me out about how bad my reading voice is, or like how bad my voice sounds. I can't really affect how my voice sounds, but I will try and read more clearly, and I have been working on reading slowly. I do have a habit of talking really fast, so now I'm trying to like read slowly. Anyways, that is it for the rambles right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like, follow my Instagram account. Shout out to Eon. We're gonna be reading your story first. Thank you so much for submitting it in r/entitled parents. If you guys would like to, you can click the link down below and you can go straight to the story and upload it for yourself. On that note, let's get into the story. EA thinks my cousin is required by law to cover her nephew's medical bills for a minor injury that happened outside the daycare my cousin works at. Okay, I'm sorry if I don't detail much. I'm pretty much going off of what my cousin told me and whatever little bit I saw. Also, I think this happened around mid-August this year. Here's some context. My cousin, who I will call C, works at a daycare. It's one of the few daycares in our small town, and all of our members are really nice, so C grew used to this. Like I said, this happened around August. Entitled Aunt, EA, moved to our area a month before her nephews. EA didn't really familiarize herself with the neighbors, but I thought nothing of it. I really don't know why EA was taking care of her nephew exactly, but we only knew she had legal custody of him. She came in with her 4-year-old nephew in and told the receptionist that she wanted to bring in to C's daycare. Our receptionist, who legit has the patience of a saint, told her that she can absolutely sign up, and then directed her to head over to me to get the contract and agreements. So she came to sign them. She came over, took the clipboard with the contact, and then she didn't even think for a second to read it, but signed it anyways. Then she filled out the background of the child. Are you the legal guardian of the child? Is there any medicine that we have to administer to the child? Etc. Basic stuff. Usually, we allowed the first day as a trial day. EA comes back after the trial day, and presumably in a worse mood, and directs into the room where the first class was. Without paying, C, who was a worker on shift for watching the kids that day, asked EA if she paid yet for the season. She didn't, and she said to C that she wasn't told to do so for her first session, to which she tells her to go to the receptionist and pay, which she does, but angrily. She drops $10 on the table. Our receptionist points out to the sign saying 34. She then smacks a 20 and a 5 on the table. She doesn't take the change, and then blasts out the door. EA was bringing in for around 2 weeks, and once classes ended, she came somewhat late to pick him up. C usually lets the kids play in the playground across the street while the parents come. N was playing on the platform part of the park when EA came. N was told it was time to go, so N was trying to get down, and when halfway down, trips and falls into the wood chips. Now, EA was there, so therefore, C was not technically the person liable for any injuries. EA ran to N, and he did have a really big bruise on his wrist, but he wasn't moving it. The EA picked him up and went up to the C, and here's what I heard. I was in the car because I was with C that day, and she drops him off home after work. EA, how dare you let N fall and get hurt? This isn't professional. You probably aren't even licensed. Now N's broke his wrist. C, as stated in your contract, we can't be liable after hours. EA, but you were here, and it was your daycare here. C, we have permission to use the park so the children are occupied when they wait for someone to pick them up. You weren't here, and it's after hours, so we aren't liable. EA, we will see about that, and then stomp to her car. 2 weeks will pass, and we'll get a call from someone we don't recognize. Our receptionist picks up to find someone claiming to be EA's attorney. He was asking for C, and when she picked up, she said it was a lawsuit filed. She was actually trying to sue the company for negligence and medical bills. Let's just say the signed contract backed up the daycare. We don't hear much from them anymore, and there was rumors she moved away. Dang, what an entitled jerk. How about you come pick up your kids on time? How about that one? Don't you just... I just feel so bad for the kids that have to live with moms or guardians that act so entitled like that. Like, what are you teaching your kid? You're trying to teach them to act the same exact way, and they're gonna have a tough time growing up just because you wanted to be a jerkhole while they were a little kid. So that was a story from someone down in the comments. If you guys have any of the stories that you want me to read during these videos, just let me know down in the comments. You can link them down below. I allow links in my comment sections. I'll click on it, read them up, boom, bada bing, bada boom, done. On to another entitled parent story. Demands the Slushy. So, while I was a senior in high school, I worked in a Kmart for Xmas season. One night, at about 10 p.m., right before closing, a mother and daughter walked in. The daughter looked like she was in pain, and the mother makes a beeline for me. Excuse me, can my daughter have a slushie? A bit of context, the Kmart I worked in was one that had a pizza chain in it. When open, served slushies. Me, I'm sorry, I don't work for the pizza chain. I can't get you a slushie. My daughter just had her wisdom teeth pulled, and she needs a slushie to help her with the pain. I knew that it would make her daughter's situation a bit worse by causing a dry socket, plus only pizza chain employees were allowed to turn on the slushie machine or any beverage machine in the section. Me, I can try, but like I said, I'm not authorized to turn on the machine. Just try. I proceeded to poop a cup and find a way to turn on the machine. Actually, I was just going through the motions. Me, I'm sorry, I can't find a way to turn on the machine. Well, at least you can get her a soda or a water. My daughter's in pain. Me, I told you already that only pizza chain employees can turn the machines on in their area, and they are closed. You are welcome to buy a bottle of water before we close. My daughter is in pain from her surgery and wants a slushie. If you can't get it, I will tell your manager. My manager arrived after seeing this on the camera, wondering why I haven't finished my closing duties. Asked me what's going on. Your employee won't give my daughter a slushie. Manager, well, he's not authorized to turn on the machine since only the pizza chain employees can do that, and they are closed at this time. The daughter and walk off in a big huff. I felt sorry for the daughter at this time. Some people's parents. Some of these trigger me when I read these. I'm just like, that poor kid. Like, I just want to smack that lady. I'm like, not actually smack that lady. Like, I'm not violent, but you know what I mean. She needs to be slapped by somebody. Jesus, slap her, please. Anyways, that's what she said was totally correct about not slurping through a straw causing dry sockets. I had to get 8 teeth extracted, not because they were like rotten or anything. I didn't have a cavity, but I had to get my 4 wisdom teeth taken out, and then I have really big canine teeth. They look really similar to what a vampire's teeth would look like. They're really sharp and really big. I was just born with them, so they're the size of about 1.5 of a tooth. So they had to take out the 4 teeth behind my top and bottom canine teeth. So I had to get 8 teeth extracted all at once. They actually had to put me into like they had to put me to sleep because they had to like drill underneath my bone under one side of my jaw to get my wisdom tooth out. But yeah, this is the reason I have braces now. But long story short, at the end they told me not to slurp anything to a straw, not to like, if you smoke, you don't want to smoke any cigarettes because any of that slurping motion could cause a dry socket. So hopefully this girl didn't go home and slurp a slushie and smoke a cigarette at the same time. I've heard it's not worth it. Just do not do it. If you're a smoker, I promise you that little bit of waiting is going to be a lot easier than if you have a dry socket. But back to that story. This is the thing that I can't stand about people is like, why can't you understand, like, people can't just do things just because you say so. That's like going into McDonald's and being like, I don't care, get me a Whopper now. Like, lady, what? What are you talking about? Like, what do you expect me to do, really? Some people have just always gotten their way by throwing a fit, and they think that throwing a fit can just get them anything. And that's how an entitled parent is born. I think that most entitled parents came from other parents that either let them be entitled as a kid or they got to watch their parents be entitled and learn that. Monkey see, monkey do. And yes, your kid's a little monkey, you entitled parent. No, I'm just kidding. The kid didn't do anything wrong. They were probably high on whatever they give you. I can't even remember what I took. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's probably short. I haven't even been recording that long. If you guys have any suggestions of subs that you want me to cover, just let me know down below. I have a Patreon down below. You can just look at it if you want to. Just look at it. I'm still just happy it got accepted. If you guys want to submit a story just like the person in the first story did, just like I said, link your story down in the comments. I'll click it. I'll read it. Doesn't matter if it has -5 million upvotes. I'll read it because thank you for the suggestion. I love when you guys interact and I love when you guys comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video. Wait, subscribe the video? What the freak are you talking about, Reddit readings? You idiot or something? Sadly, we're reading the first part of the first story again because for some reason the recording was not recording correctly. So, here we go. Oh yeah, before we start, this video was sponsored by Aiden. Thank you, Aiden. Really, it was suggested by him, Aiden. Thank you so much for the suggestion. I'm pretty sure this is the second time you suggested a video. If you guys have any suggestions, leave them down below. We do them. If at any time in the video you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into the video. I'm just a delivery guy. So I don't know if this belongs here, but I couldn't stop laughing. A little backstory, I work for a crate company, FC, and my job is to drive around town in a semi-truck with a 28-foot trailer with a liftgate on it and deliver items on pallets that are too big for normal mail trucks. So I'm delivering an industrial dishwasher to a new restaurant. I have to squeeze my truck through the alley to the back door like normal. I'm too big to park on the side of the road. I go in, the manager politely says, "We can't take that today. I was told it was supposed to come in 2 days, and I just don't have the room." I said, "No problem, I'll bring it back in 2 days." I load it back up and leave, which by the way is not easy to do because it weighs 700 pounds. Fast forward 2 days, I'm back behind the restaurant, so I lowered the liftgate, open the door, and head inside with the paperwork I need to show the customer. I look around inside and find an employee that takes me downstairs to the locked door where the man, rude owner, comes out and immediately stares at me and repeatedly interrupts while I say my opening line. "Hello, I'm from FC. I have, what do you want?" Yeah, I have your dishwasher." He abruptly walks away, so I follow him into the kitchen area, where he starts barking orders. So I need the dishwasher pulled out and the electrical lines replaced, and the feed and the drain lines replaced, so you need to do all that and take your old one with you. This was supposed to be done yesterday, and we are open in 2.5 hours. Obviously, I'm confused, so we share an awkward stare which seems like an eternity until he breaks the silence with a, "Well?" I realize what's happening here, so I say, "Sir, I don't know if someone told you the wrong information, but I'm not the installer. I'm just here to drop it off." He did not like that. "I don't care what you're here for. I need this done now." All I can muster up is, "Sir, if you need it installed, you're gonna have to call a plumber." He then throws a fit and yells at me, saying I need to get down there before he calls my boss. This is where I get evil. You see, we have to get a signature on the delivery receipt to complete the delivery. Well, I had him sign off before it all happened. So, I go the 150 yards and 2 staircases back up to my truck. I get back in and lift the pallet with the jack. I drop it onto the asphalt. I load my jack back up and leave. As I leave, I see him come running out, waving his arms, and I keep going. An hour later, I get to the yard and my boss says, "You got a call from RO. He's pissed." Then sticks his hand up for a high five. Nice one. Moral of the story, don't be rude to people that have the power to make your day terrible. Wow, this is like I guess it is I don't work here. He did work there, like delivering it, but he wasn't the installer. Yeah, I mean, that's a good, very, very good example of why you should always be nice to people. Like, you don't know what kind of power they have. It goes back to like whenever I was working at Walmart, where I was working in the money center at a Walmart, and if someone wanted to cash a check and like they didn't have like the junior at the end of their name, or if maybe they gave me their ID card and it was like any of the plastic was ripped on it, if they were rude, I would just deny them. I'm like, "I'm sorry, we're not allowed to accept any kind of messed up IDs," and they would be so upset. Like normal people, nice people, like I wouldn't care. Like even sometimes I do them a favor, they have a jacked up ID, I do it. But like really people, like really rude people that just came in there and were just stinky and nasty, fishy, stinky, I would just be like, "Ma'am, I am so sorry. Forgive us, but this is an invalid form of identification. We need one without rips, no tears. You can't have any kind of smudges. Here, it's right here in our handbook. I'm sorry." And like just being extra polite like that would just make them even more upset. Like kind of good times. Good times and not good times because that job kind of sucked, but then again, it was fun doing that stuff. Okay, on to the next video. Enough about Walmart. The moment you realize a customer doesn't view retail as a job. I'm gonna preface this by stating that the customer isn't malicious, just ignorant. And this kind of story is short but entertaining. I wasn't actually confused for an employee, but it did happen with a customer I recognized at some place other than where I work. So I've worked at this grocery store for a really long time. I don't remember how far back the story is, but one Sunday after work, I decided to go to a nearby pizza place to get myself a small pizza before I head home. I don't order it ahead of time because this is before I carried a styrofoam regularly, and the place is like a 5-minute drive from my work, so I'm not gonna go home to order it first. I walk in and immediately encounter an old man who shops at my store regularly. He never really comes off as senile or rude, but he's one of those people who has no filter on the way they talk. He recognizes me as someone he's seen before, but doesn't mistake me for an employee. Old man: "Oh, I'll get out of your way, cause your order is probably already ready." Me: "Oh no, I haven't ordered yet. I just got off work and I came straight here." Old man: "Where the F do you work that you have to work on a Sunday?" He yells this while we're standing in the middle of a pizza place that in fact is open on a Sunday, hence why we were here buying pizzas. I hear a couple employees in the back grumbling something because he yelled this rather loud and sounded outraged at the concept of someone having to work on a Sunday. I don't remember what I said to him after that because I just wanted to get my pizza and go home, but I can't imagine what kind of logic was turning in his head. Not sure if he just doesn't view retail as a work and think they're all just here for fun and games, or if he views employees like some kind of magical extension of the store that have no personal life outside of the store. Okay, I know I said I was done talking about Walmart, but whenever I was working on a holiday, like Thanksgiving or like Halloween or something like that, or like even Christmas Eve, people would come in and be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they have you working. And I'm like, I'm here working because you're here. If you didn't come here, I wouldn't be working. I was like, you dang hypocrite. That actually shows you how little people think about other people. A lot of people get nervous and anxious because they think like, oh my god, everyone's thinking about me. But everyone else is thinking, oh my gosh, everyone is thinking about me. Everyone is so busy worried about themselves that no one really notices each other. That was kind of short, so let me look for another one. I forgot. I do work here. So I work for this company that deals with anything to do with transport. The most famous part of our company is a local moving part, biggest in my country, but I barely have to work with them or think about them as I work in an international transport. Most people don't know our company does do other things than moving. A year ago, I helped my sister who was moving out of house since I could get her a free truck and tools to work on weekends. Since I was doing heavy labor, I was in my work gear with this famous company logo plastered all over it. I loaded and unloaded the trunks since it was borrowed from my work and I wanted to make sure it stayed in pristine condition. So I was with the truck at all times, which had our famous company logo on the side. Random lady RL walks up. RL: hey, I was wondering about the prices of your moving company since I'm going to move soon. Me, totally forgetting that my company does moving as well. Excuse me, I don't work for a moving company. RL, slightly confused, thinking that she's bothering me. I don't want to know too much, just how much it costs on an hour, and how big of a truck we need for an average move. Me, sorry lady, no clue, you might want to ask the actual moving company. RL left with a very confused look on her face. She kept looking back at me, I was confused as well, until I saw the company logo on my sleeve. Oh, guess I lost the company a client and some trust that day. Oh wow. Okay, I know I already said I wouldn't talk about Walmart twice in a row now, but like since this is just turning into a partway Walmart video, since I worked in the money center, I would come through the front door, turn to the right, and would be in my little office area. And then I would walk out of there, turn to the left, and the front door was right there. So I never went anywhere in the store. And people would be like, do you know in what aisle I may be able to find a closing pin attached to an oil regulator? And I'd be like, no, maybe look in the closing pin oil regulator inside of the store and maybe ask an employee there. And they'd be like, well, you working at Walmart? I'm like, ma'am, I work in a money center. I don't even go anywhere else in the store. Okay, enough with the short stories. No one cares about Walmart. Anyways, what do you guys think about this sub r/I don't work here lady? These actually seem pretty good. The last one seemed like the most, like, I don't know, I don't work here, but like they just forgot. These are like the middle one, like I don't even know what that had to do with r/I don't work here lady. It seems to be just like funny stories. Let me know if you guys like this stuff down below, and if you guys have any suggestions. Remember at the beginning, I take every single suggestion that comes in since we're still not that big of a channel. Comment your favorite ones down below and we'll go through them, even if they're just like picture stuff and stuff like that. Once again, if you like this video at any point in the video, like and subscribe. Today we're going to be going down the sub of r/space. But not just like down the whole sub. I want to go to this one picture specifically that it kind of caught my eye. I didn't read through it, but I did read the titles and I kind of got a gist of what's going on. And it's something I'm actually really interested in. And I'm not, I'm not the kind of alien guy. I've went through stages of believing and not believing in aliens. This isn't one of those creepy Reddit stories or anything like that. But anyways, right before we get into it, if you guys like this video at any point in the video, hit that like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Why haven't we found aliens? An analysis of the problem. Now, this was on r/space. Don't get me wrong, this is on no kind of conspiratorial thing. These are actual like theories and hypotheses of what is going on in the world and what's up with this whole alien situation that the Earth is going through. Not that we're like going through something, but the active search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, has been going on for half a century. To date, no ET signals from stellar systems have ever been detected. Here are the popular theories on why this search has come up empty. Obviously, like that thing just stated, the following are the theories that actual scientists and whatever philosophers and smart people of our time and the times past have come up with on why we have not reached aliens, or why there's no solid proof on why we reach aliens. Whether you believe that there are aliens hidden somewhere and people know about them, or if you think that we haven't contacted them, this is what the general public has access to. Starting off, the rare earth theory. Basically, we're unique. The rare earth hypothesis argues that planets with complex life, like Earth, are extremely rare and that intelligent extraterrestrial life is highly improbable. Hence, we are one of a kind. Now, off on this note, I'll just go ahead and state the fact that I do believe in evolution, as I have scientifically come to the fact that I do believe that evolution is a thing. We've seen it since the past 100 years. There are obvious signs. Humans have sped up evolution. It happens. Now, the crazy thing is, humans weren't the only humans, and we weren't the first humans. Neanderthals were before humans, and Homo habilis, I think it is. And there was midget people, not like I'm sorry, that's a slur, really short looking kind of humans, but all those kind of ape-like people are all dead now. None of them survived, sadly. They're more Bigfoot-like and really smart orangutan-like than human, especially like Neanderthals, who didn't have as much brain capacity as we do. They were all intelligent. Now, how intelligent, we'll never know. But knowing that, we found weapons and cave drawings and stuff from Neanderthal people that humans didn't make. It didn't come from us. This was before we were even here. They used tools and they used fire. That counts as intelligent. They were able to create and understand and comprehend. And people think that they might have had some kind of communication system, my bad. And that just shows that there is other intelligence out there. We can communicate with dogs on some sort of level. Dolphins are smart, octopus are smart, pigs are actually really intelligent. We can see that there's a different type of intelligent level, but as of now, only ape-like people or ape-like animals have been able to conjure up the intelligence enough to have, complex civilization like we do now. So what I'm saying is, do I think we are just so complex and awesome and so rare? No, I don't think that we are. I think humans like to think that because we are the human. We are the thing that we're talking about. Of course, we'd like to think that ourselves are. We are the one. We are the oneness of the universe that was made for us. No, we can't survive in 99% of the universe. None of this was made for us. We just happen to stumble upon. The next one is the Gaian bottleneck. They didn't survive. The Gaian bottleneck hypothesis by astrologist Dr. Aida Chopra suggests that alien beings are all dead. They simply didn't make it. Life forms on habitable, quote-unquote, planets failed to emerge quickly enough to stabilize the planet and pave a way for more life. This is what scientists and progressive people are trying to solve right now with the climate change and using sustainable things to try and keep us from bottlenecking ourselves into just destroying the planet instead of being able to upkeep. It's pretty much just a self-regulating system as the rest of the universe is. There is life and death, everything comes to life, and then everything will die. So there's no such thing as being able to keep on existing past being able to conjure up enough scientific methods and theories to reach other civilizations. Everyone is alone in their own sphere until they die. Do I think this is a thing? Quite possibly. We're on the road to doing the same thing ourselves, down the road of destruction. The world is getting better in some ways, but it's also getting worse in other ways. And unless the most intelligent creatures on this planet are the ones that are causing the most harm. So maybe the more intelligent you get, the more harm you cause, and by the time you hit a certain point, boom, there's no turning back and your world is gonna end. The next one is the Great Filter. Earth is subjected to the Great Filter, 5 mass extinction events, but nevertheless evolved complex creatures. What if all habitable quote-unquote planets were hit by a killer asteroid, scorched by solar flares, torn apart by geological uphills, seared by supernova blast or gamma ray burst radiation? And that of all worlds, only Earth successfully hurdled the stumbling blocks. The scary part is, hopefully the filter is behind us and it's not in front of us. All those could not be a part of the filter, and the filter is something that is so inconceivable to us, we don't know until it hits us. That's the thing about the filter. It's a filter for a reason. It grabs everyone, unsuspecting or not. Now, do I think this is a thing? Most definitely. Now, do I think that any of those are what would stop every other world? Definitely not. There's no way, there's no mathematical way that an asteroid and, geological supernova, this and that could all happen to every single habitable planet. Especially if it's one not even in a solar system, just one single planet and one single star, and maybe a Jupiter, to stop it from getting hit by asteroids like the Earth, got. Maybe something like that. There's gotta be some out of all the infinity out there in the same exact situation as us. I don't think we're the one in the infinity. That's just like, the odds are so low to impossible. But I think the Great Filter is a thing. I feel like that actually is a thing. I definitely agree. The next is the Great Silence. Alas, we are not worth it. The Great Silence Hypothesis points that advanced beings who belong to a Type 3 civilization on the Carver scale, able to harness the energy output of a whole galaxy, simply do not reach out to insignificant carbon-based humans. Why bother with the Type 0 bipeds? This is something that I don't think is it. I don't think that someone who is intelligent enough to roam the galaxy and take over an entire solar system would stop at just a solar system. If they could learn anything else, by intelligence sake, because they were so propelled by intelligence, I don't think they'd not take the time to document who we are, just as we will not even be half the intelligence as they would be, and we still document beetles and grubs that who cares. I think that's like a far cry from the other one. I think that instead of people, I think a lot of people see it as all or nothing, as in people see it as the universe revolves around us. We are the one, or we just are so insignificant that nobody cares. Like, people have demonstrated there's different types of blades of grass. I think if we can do that, they can look at each different planet and just go to it and be like, yeah, screw it then. The next one is the early birds. Earth had a head start. In a study, Dr. Peter Baruzzi said that compared to all planets that will ever form in the universe, Earth is actually quite early, and the last star that will burn out is 100 trillion years away from now. And 92% of planets are yet to be born. We're the first, but not necessarily the last. And this is something that I totally agree with. I agree with 100%. I think that we are actually really early on the universal scale of the people that are intelligent. That's one reason why I feel like if any intelligent being is going to be the first one to actually move out there to try and contact the other ones, that it could possibly be us. But I think if we do find habitable planets that actually have surviving beings, I do not believe they'll be intelligent. The Earth has survived 99% of its years with unintelligent creatures and 1% of us intelligent creatures on it. So what are the odds that we find a planet that actually has the 1% time zone that we're looking in? It's very, very small. The next is not life as we know it. We've had it wrong all the time. ETs may not be biological beings like us at all. Noted astronomer Lord Martin Rees said they might be machines, not organic creatures. So we should be looking for solar harvesting, non-carbon based structures instead of listening to radio signals. That's something that I totally agree with too. If there's other beings out there, there's no, what's the odds that they're carbon based just like us? Like other people say, why aren't they silicon based? That's a totally, valid form to be. Why wouldn't they be that and, communicate in other ways that we can't communicate? There's senses that other things have on our own planet that we don't have. We don't have the sense of electromagnetism. Birds can see magnetic fields and feel them, unlike us. Other animals can see an infrared, unlike us. Other animals can see heat signals. Maybe, if we can't even communicate with the things on this planet like they can, what do you think about other planets? It's totally plausible that there's aliens on another planet that can't communicate with us at all. A long road ahead of us. Basically, we've got a long way to go, and a lot more searching to do. SETI has barely scratched the surface of the radio universe. There are many more wavelengths to scan, so we shouldn't give up hope yet. I mean, yeah, this is true. We have more radio signals to scan. I mean, there's nothing to say about that. But do I think, other planets are sending out radio waves? No. By the time they get out that far, it'll be so weak that no one's going to be able to even comprehend what it was. The next one. In a galaxy far, far away. 46 billion light years is the distance to the edge of the observable universe. That's really far. We've scanned for extraterrestrial signals to just around 40,000 light years from Earth. We haven't even outpassed the bounds of our galaxy, which is 100,000 light years wide. Alien intelligence would simply be too far away for our current technologies to reach. See, that's crazy. When you think about have we searched the universe? People say, we've searched the universe and looked for aliens. We haven't even searched our edge of our own galaxy yet. I'd be hard pressed to believe that there aren't other living things out there. I don't think we're special. I don't think we're the oneness. I don't think if anyone's the chosen ones, it's not us. Or we would have been born the chosen ones, not after that. I think the dinosaurs were the chosen ones. No, I'm just kidding. Do I believe in aliens? In a sense that are other living things on other planets? I'm 100% sure. But you can't say 100% sure without knowing. I can say whatever I want. But do I think aliens have contacted Earth? Heck to the no. No. I think people undermine the abilities of the Egyptian people to be able to make things. I think you're really undermining the intelligence of humans and how they can create if you think that they couldn't make the pyramids. I think a lot of people have hallucinations. I think a lot of people are just crazy. The only thing that is, working for the side of there might be aliens, but we can't see them today is because, no one catches, flying saucers on cameras anymore. But people are saying that our time is now so well documented that maybe they don't have a reason to come and see us, but they do have a reason to go and see, the 70s and 80s and back when there was no internet to just instantly know everything. Maybe everything is already uploaded on every file from the 2000s onward. So now nobody really wants to come and see our time. Maybe we're just not interesting enough. But I mean, that is also a theory, and I'm not very pressed to believe that out of my right mind. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments from this r/space thing. This did take a minute. I didn't even know that reading this would take this long. I got to talking. That happens. This is something I actually really enjoy. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you think that aliens have came to Earth? Do you think aliens are just us visiting from the future? Do you think there are aliens out in the wildness of the universe? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this different kind of space and sciencey kind of thing. I am really interested in these kind of things. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope I see you guys next time, and goodbye, my lovelies. r/ultimate revenge challenge. I don't know why I call it r/ultimate revenge challenge when it's just ultimate revenge challenge. Technically, I've been calling it ultimate revenge fresh challenge since I got the idea from fresh. Oh, whatever. The main thing is we're doing an r/petty revenge, an r/ProRevenge, an r/nuclear revenge, and the almighty, once again, big mammo jammo r/supernova revenge. Let's get into the r/petty revenge with ride my butt, get pulled over. So this happened a while ago, but I still laugh about it. I was on my way home from a pretty major state route where their speed limit was 55, until you go through a town and it could drop down to 45, sometimes 30. In this story, it drops down to 45, so I was coming down a pretty significant hill, and we all know that vehicles pick up speed while going down. As I came down the hill, I started braking since the town had a speed limit of 45. The guy behind me did not like that. He was on my butt so incredibly bad, I could count the whiskers on his face. As I went through town, I had to pass the fire department, and sitting on the opposite side of the road was a state trooper. Cue petty revenge. As I drove past the state trooper, I gestured to the cop to look behind me. I didn't think anything would happen because who's that lucky? Apparently, me. I kept watching my rear view mirror, and roughly about a mile out of town, the a-hole behind me got pulled over. Thank you, New York State Trooper. This is the revenge every driver wants. Whenever they see someone's on their butt, they're like, oh, why couldn't there be a cop right now behind me? This guy got that wish. He took everyone's luck on the highway. I'm not gonna lie, when people start to ride my butt whenever I'm driving, I start to go like 15 underneath the speed limit. Like, usually I'll go like 5 over, but if I'm doing that, if I'm doing like 5 or 10 over and you ride my butt, we're slowing down. Either that or I'll go the same speed as the car that I can get next to. Not if I have people in the car with me, just if I'm by myself. I don't want to get anyone else into danger. But I'm just too passive aggressive to let that kind of stuff get by. Alright, on to the pro revenge. And before I read these pro revenge and nuclear revenge, I've actually noticed that the people that moderate pro revenge and nuclear revenge take off 90% of the stories and don't let most of them get posted. Like, the newest stories are always like a week out because they don't allow, subpar stories to come through, and that's why you see a lot of people reading the same pro revenge and nuclear revenges. Like, there hasn't been any for the new ones in this past week, so like any new ones that come up, people will read them, and that's what everyone's gonna be hearing. But during this ultimate revenge challenge, we try to go through and pick some of the short ones, just because the supernova revenge is supposed to be the bread and butter of this event, not some little pro revenge. Stealing my notes. Guess who won't graduate high school? I first posted this in Nuclear Revenge, though I think it's not that drastic, so I thought here was more fitting. So this happened in 2018 when I graduated high school. A quick overview of the Swiss school system. Normally, you go through school until 9th grade. If you want to go to university later, you can change your grammar school from 8th to 12th grade. I decided to study and went to high school. Also, in Switzerland, my state canton at least, everything under a 75% is a fail. We have a really strict thing going on there. There, I quickly became friends with Chelsea, now my girlfriend, and Alicia. Alicia is the kind of person that is funny if you don't have her around too much. She is always the victim. She can only talk about herself, etc. But if you spend too much time with her, you are a mess. She is never responsible for things that happen with her because she grew up in foster care system, whatever. So this happened about 2 months before our finals. Now, graduating means passing the finals obviously, but not only them. The finals are half of your eventual grade. The other half is your last report card. If I had an A on my final English exam, but a C in my last report card, my eventual grade would become a C. What? I mean a B, and so on. Sorry guys. Alicia really struggled with that because her report card wasn't that good. She had to excel in most of the subjects to graduate. So you would think she'd write as many notes as possible and study pretty early, right?
Nope.
She procrastinated until 2 months before our final exams, when I and Chelsea studied our butts off. Now, I was always a girl who offered her notes in our class group chat in case someone was interested. This gets important later. We had a fairly long list of things that we would be able to use in the maths, and I wrote notes for every single topic and kept in a folder in my locker. Only put some of them in the group chat just when someone was asking about a certain topic. One day, I went to my locker and they weren't there. I was freaking out. I spent weeks on writing them. I looked for them an entire week in approximately 3 panic attacks because I thought I wouldn't pass now and had to do them all over again. That's when Alicia casually told me she took them the other day when I asked her to get a book from my locker. She actually hadn't planned to tell me it because it's not like you need them anyways, you had them long enough. If you didn't make copies, it's not my fault. The blatant entitlement was enough for me to come up with a plan. A vicious plan. Not only had she stolen my notes, if I hadn't bothered her so much with it, she wouldn't even have told me she had taken them. And she was only a high school friend anyway, and I knew I'd never do anything with her again once we graduated. So frankly, I didn't give a single duck about what would happen to her. Her entitled, self-centered way was enough for me to finally burst. I apologize for making drama. It's okay, you're just like that sometimes. I was about to lose it, and just continued my school day. Now, Alicia kept calling me about the notes, etc., even before that, especially my notes for various books. She'd chosen the same books so she didn't have to study extra. I started giving her a wrong analysis and the fake notes. Obviously, enough to figure out they were wrong if she'd think herself, but not too obvious. If she read the books, she would have known it was BS. I did the same with our English books and French. She already had my math notes too. I couldn't fake those, but I could fake German, French, English, chemistry, physics, and psychology. Now, after I had invested so much in faking notes, I watched it all go down for a day before graduation. We went to a pub with our teacher to watch a football game, I don't even remember, and she distributed our results. I passed with a 5.38. In Switzerland, the grades are from 1 to 6. 6 is the best, so about an A. And Alicia went pale. 3.21, a D-. She had failed all of her classes but maths and psychology. Oops, it seems she really read my notes. She didn't read the books she was supposed to read. She didn't read our textbooks. I had to hide a grin. My girlfriend thinks to this day it was cruel, but seriously, it was a damper for her entitlement and narcissism. From what I heard, she is currently trying to repeat the year and try again, hopefully without stealing her friend's notes. Edit, thank you to everyone that explained the difference between a cup and a mug. Edit 2, many people are asking me, and no, I don't regret it. To pass her finals, she had to study and read her French, German, and English books. The task was not just to read the notes and BS her way through them. The language finals were done orally. If she had read the books, she would have known my notes were not correct. So honestly, her fault. Ooh, that sucks. But that's kind of what she deserves. You can tell that this person was a big jerk to everyone around them, was just like a giant black hole of negative energy. This is one of those friends that you're around sometimes because you can just like barely stand them and you just want someone else to be there with your group, but you wouldn't be upset if they just left and never came back. To be fair, in high school I never studied, I don't think I studied once, ever. I just kind of learned what I learned in class and I just used whatever I learned in class to pass. I have kind of good memorization of watching someone talk, but like reading through stuff is just like not my stuff. Studying is just, it hardly works for me. I don't know why. So I kind of just skipped over that portion in school and it all just kind of worked out. I'm not saying if you're in high school do this. That's not a good idea. If you can do that, I mean, hey, more free time. But if you can't, just study the notes. It's fine. On to the nuclear revenge, which is sadly only just a barely bit smaller than that last one. These stories are always like a little bit longer than normal. Also, I'm like gonna be blurring out and not saying any of the like quote unquote bad words because our videos are getting demonetized and you know that's just not working out for me. So I'm sorry if you guys wanted to see these totally dirty, disgusting words, but just trying to imagine them there, okay? All right, nuclear revenge time. Assistance from HE double hockey sticks. Let me preface this by saying I'm still going through some mental issues because of what happened in this story. Background, I was born with cataracts that later became glaucoma when I turned 5. After some years, something happened that caused me to lose all my vision in my left eye. This meant that I needed an assistant for the rest of my education. Now that you're all informed, the story. When I was starting middle school, my parents found an assistant to help me move around my school. I'll call her Ella for simplicity's sake, anyway. Ella's friendly to me and my parents, so they didn't have to worry. Ella did her job and she was friendly with me. And then it began. One day, Ella didn't come to school. She called my dad saying she got in an accident on the road. It was fine. She got in an accident. It wasn't her fault. I spent the first 2 weeks of school trying my darndest to explain why I couldn't write the work and give a convincing argument, and walk around without bumping into every wall in person. On top of that, Ella became more and more hostile as the months went by. She then began telling me awful things about my appearance, my personality, and she talked junk about me and my parents to other teachers who were just as scummy as her. The only reason why I didn't say anything is because she made me think that doing so would get me expelled. And me being stupid 13-year-old, I believe her. Needless to say, I was miserable. The straw that broke the camel's back was the day where she was so angry that she slapped me. I was done. The revenge. I told my dad about everything. The absences, the slander, everything. When I told him, he went absolutely ape poo-poo, and we went straight to the principal. After telling her everything that happened, we found out that Ella was present to write herself up as president, but she had never arrived to help me. We also found out she had faked most of her reasons for absence. After a long investigation that took 2 years to actually prove, we took Ella to court. I only had to testify every single detail which she did and what she said. Long story short, we won the case and Ella went to prison for 3 years. After word got out about what Ella did to me, my father heard that her friends and family basically disowned her. She had also lost the remaining custody of her kids, which went directly to her ex-husband, who works for a vendor that passes by my school. Ella became forgotten garbage. It's been almost a year since Ella went to prison, but sometimes I still hear all the terrible things she says. Thanks to her, I'm scared to make decisions because I can't get her words out of my mind. I'm going to start school soon. Maybe I'll finally get the demon woman out of my head. Edit, thank you for the kind words. Honestly, I thought this was going to get ignored. At the time of writing this, I'm going to start my 2nd year of high school. I'm just happy that even strangers on the internet are willing to say such nice things. Thank you all for the support. Edit 2, I've noticed some comments confused about my condition. I'll clarify. To be perfectly honest, I don't really know how it happened. I don't remember since it was a long time, at least for me. After Ella stopped being nice is when I started seriously learning how to use a cane for blind people. Yeah, true. I mean, you're not going to be able to switch from being able to see a little bit to being able to walk around with a cane blind, knowing how to use it, right? But dang, screw Ella. That's like the scum of the scum, picking on people that can hardly stick up for themselves. These are the worst type of people to know and be around. And I bet you she picked that jobs just so she can be like those. That's the kind of narcissistic personality trait that people have when they just want to have someone that's small so they can feel almighty and make the other person feel insignificant. It's terrible. But man, 3 years, that's crazy. Like I maybe it's like falsifying documents, because like a slap to the face, like open hand slap, it's like that's assault charge. What is that, like maximum 6 months in jail or something? Dude, there must have been more charges in there than just the slap. Alright, on to the Supernova Revenge. Checkmate in double time. I don't know if this is pro or not, but here it goes. Excuses, language, mobile, etc. Once upon a time, when I was in the 8th grade, I had 2 bullies, a kid and a teacher. So let's see the cast. Me, English teacher, bully. So let's go to the story. The plot happened like this. In my school in Puerto Rico, I had a bully that unfortunately was always put into my homeroom. Of 30 students, approximately over and over. And at 8th grade, I had an English teacher that had a lot of errors in grammar and speech. People say I have patience, so it was easy to target me. Do you remember how a rubber band works? That was me. The teacher was yelling at me because I wasn't on the same level as the class and had a different pronunciation as my teacher. Until one day, I waited until after class and I told her that she was doing something wrong in class. So she destroyed my scholarship because she would not give me anything other than a C after the event. So, no music, no money to study, no peace at the house. My parents were abusive in the worst ways, so they stepped it up a notch. My friends started making my bully go against the English teacher, and so I started to do pranks and mess around with all her stuff. Like unfolding the chairs when she would use, hide her key, put menacing notes in her desk and purse, and accrediting the glory to my bully until she became so paranoid in the classroom, but nobody suspects the nice teacher's pet that apologized to the English teacher. One day, I decided to go
coup de grace
and aggravated him until he was yelling at the English teacher, and the English teacher was trying to scold and drag him to the principal's. Then, my bully got out of her grasp and started fighting her. So I had a thought. While the commotion was going on, I broke her windows and mirrors in her car with an extra shirt from the gym bag, then used a charge to scratch the paint off and left the shirt on the crime scene. My bully got suspended and banned from most of the schools in my area. My English teacher had a meltdown and was forced to retire while I told her about the whole plan as she deteriorated. Edit 1. She was admitted to a psychiatric institution. Oh my goodness. One thing that still sucks is this guy still has to be in an abusive household. So that sucks, but I mean, at least he could get out some anger on two people that definitely deserved it. But man, he ruined her car. He took her job away and sent her to a loony bin and got his bully suspended. He must be like living like he must be the king of his friend group. They must be like, whoa, yeah, there's Jimmy, whoa, he made the English teacher go crazy, go Jimmy, whoa. What do you guys think? Was that a supernova revenge? Was that a supernova as you expected? Let me know down in the comments. There were some grammatical errors in this that was like makes you want to pull your hair out. So I didn't exactly read everything word for word, but that's okay. You said I'd never graduate high school, so I gave you my diploma. I don't know if this counts as revenge, but it felt like it to me. I have ADD symptoms that were really bad in high school, so much so that in 10th grade I had a 1.57 GPA and the mathematical comprehension of an 8th grader. I also have a really bad family life. My dad would take me aside to give me painfully long lectures about how I was useless, wouldn't graduate high school on time, if at all, and that college isn't my future. He said it was important for him to emphasize that I was a waste of a school desk, where there was nothing anyone could do for me. Then he would force me to drop out of high school when I was 16. A bunch of junk happened after that, including a residential treatment center, but after I was discharged, I was allowed to go back to school. For my junior year of high school, I was enrolled in a self-paced school program. I was also finally put on
Vivency?
And that was a total lifesaver. I made A's and B's after that. I brought my GPA up significantly. I wanted to say it was a 3.0, but that seems unlikely. It was at least a 2.9. And I ended up graduating on time. Not only that, I was accepted into 5 colleges I applied to, though I had to write a convincing essay for some of them. In 2013, I was a freshman at Texas State University. There was one thing left to do. I got a copy of my high school diploma in one of those fancy leather book thingies with a fancy gold engraving. I'll see if I can find a picture of it. When I got it, I walked it over to my dad, handed it out to him, looked him in the eyes, and said, I want you to have this. You were the one person who always believed in me. The look on his face was freaking priceless. TLDR, I have serious ADD and my dad said I would never graduate high school. I handed him my high school diploma and make him look like an idiot. Top comment is, success really is the best revenge. Wow, good on him for that. That took like a lot of self-motivation and encouragement. That's like good on him and no one else. Good job, buddy. Not a lot of people can say that they've been like down and out, even like their most critical people might have even been their parents, and then was still able to succeed like he did. Okay, now onto the r/pro-revenge story, going from petty to pro. Landlord made me live in squalor, now she's bankrupt. So here's a story of my previous living situation, which was at best horrendous. I moved into what I thought at the time was a lovely 3 to 4 bedroom house with a nice offset garage and garden, perfect for my family consisting of myself, my partner, and my 3 kids. Well, a few weeks into the move, and the problem started to arise. We moved in just before Christmas, and the weather was awful. Torrential rain, in fact. Which is when I discovered the horrendous leak in my roof. I mean, water teeming through the roof, into the walls and down my windows, resulting in all my pots and pans having to sit in my windows to collect said rainwater. We then ended up realizing we had a leak through my roof in my daughter's room after she was awoken by rain dripping on her while she was slept. She was only 2 at the time. We discovered over the course of time when we lived there that electronics had never been checked and often shorted out. The gas pipes under the regulated minimum gauge, and when the heating was on, we couldn't power the gas cooker, vice versa. The decking out of the back was rotten, and when stood on, it just snapped. There was a 4-foot drop underneath this. A gas safety check showed that the combi boiler was broken and condemned, but they still refused to replace it. The heating system could never be switched off, even though it was summer. All of these were reported and promised to be fixed. Over the time, the patio door hinge, which was completely snapped off at the time, we couldn't close it properly or lock it, and we were told it would be fixed. Waited months, and even though I was still paying full rent, it never got fixed. I eventually got fed up and reported it to the local environmental health team. They came to inspect the property and raised concerns over the kitchen floor, which was wrapped in a major trip hazard. We also discovered from the visit that the 4th bedroom, which was in a loft, was illegal due to how it had been done. No insulation, no heating, Dodge electrics. So the local environment health team handed us an order over to the landlord to repair all these in a 3-month period. It didn't get done. The council took the landlord to court for breach and she ended up having to pay fines and was given another 6 weeks to rectify. A few of the jobs got sorted when I found a new house to move into. 2 years later, I just found out through a close friend the council proceeded to complete the jobs themselves, and the landlord now has been declared bankrupt due to this. Her house is being put up for auction. She will receive nowhere near what she needs to pay off her debts. And she has given up her other house due to bankruptcy laws, meaning she can't own equity, not even a decent car. If she only put the rent I was paying into fixing her house, it wouldn't have gone this far. I'm not sure what happened, but regarding the illegal going-ons, the gas and electrical problems were never properly upkept, but I like to hope that she got punished in some way or form. Wow, what a jerk landlord. That kind of reminds me of my apartments. They suck. The apartment I'm living in, the people up in the office freaking suck. Like, I have so many work orders put in, I still have not seen them. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna make a strongly worded YouTube video on them. No, I'm just kidding. Alright, on to the r/nuclear revenge. I got him thrown in jail and ruined his relationship of 5 years. So this will be a short one, so please excuse the grammar issues. The past 2.5 months, I've been in a rehab center. It was supposed to be a 3-month stay, but another resident, let's call him Jerk, decided to fake me out and get me booted from the program. While I was showering, he decided to put a vape in my shorts and get staff to check in my room. I got kicked out, and I thought I was going to get to stay, but that's where the revenge comes in. I knew he had more than just one vape. This dude is a fiend and wouldn't sacrifice his only device to get me out of there. I decided to get even. Before I left, I pulled a stunt. I went to the staff and told him about contacting his girlfriend, whom he had no contact order with. After doing so, I went to the director and told him where Jerk's stash was. I ain't no snitch, but if you screw with me, I'm screwing with you too. The director searched his stash and found a ridiculous amount of contraband. Though I was still kicked out of the program, I got the satisfaction of seeing him cry as he was let out of the building in cuffs with 2 more charges on his head, knowing he won't see the outside world for 2 years or more. Oh my god, she got him thrown in jail for 2 years. I don't see why that guy was trying to set her up though. Like, what was the point of being a jerk? Now you just got yourself locked up for 2 years. Good job, buddy. You're a genius. Now for the almighty r/supernova revenge. This better explode my computer when I read this. Like, my computer better explode in front of my face when I read this. Like, the tag is death.
Hello,
like, what? Girl gets revenge on a rapist, his cop's friends, and family. This story may or may not have happened the way I would tell it. I wasn't involved in it, but I got the story from several people who were involved. I had to guess some gaps in the timeline, so it may seem a bit unreal. I couldn't believe it myself at first, but a few good friends told me they were involved, so I guess readers should decide for themselves. I went to a college in the late 1990s, and this story was some urban legend on campus. I thought so myself until I met a few frat girls older than me who swore it really happened. Okay, after this long intro, here's the story. In the early 1990s, this little college wasn't the best. Not at all. Some girls had to pay their tuition and living by working as dancers, or as you might say, adult entertainment industry. There was a guy who would always forget where to stop, harass the girls, touch them where he shouldn't, and you know the type. There were too many of these guys. Usually, the bouncer would cook him out, and everyone but the girls would forget about him. But the girls remembered and hated working when he came in. It could have been all the story, until one day, the guy was too drunk and too stupid. He got himself kicked out again and thought he would get whatever he wanted anyways. He waited in the parking lot for some girls to finish their shift to get the girl where he wanted and jump her. Luckily, the bouncer noticed him and told the girls to get out from the back door, and he called the police. Police patrol car came in. The cop said he would talk to the guy but wouldn't do anything because nothing happened yet. The girls were upset and started talking about that. They found out the guy was kicked from every club in town, even the cheapest, junkiest holes where he paid the girls with drugs, which led to another discovery. The guy was a drug dealer on the street, a real lowlife. The girls decided to protect themselves and ask another student to teach them some self-defense moves. This student, call her Susie, was ex-military, as far as everyone knew. Not because she talked about it, she didn't, but because some students were working in management building, and they found out she was on full scholarship from some government agency, and the government does not just go out and pay anyone. So they figured she did something to earn it. Susie was about 25 at the time, but only started first year, while everyone in that year was 18 to 21. She was doing something else for those many years. Anyway, Susie agreed to teach them. The lesson started, and the third lesson, one of the girls came back with a black eye and told everyone the lesson helped her, as the guy actually jumped her last night, and she managed to escape him. She tried to complain to the police, but had a feeling that they wouldn't do anything. That's how Susie heard the whole story, and decided to put an end to it. She then investigated further on the police detective, found out he had a 20-year-old son, and his brother-in-law was also a cop, uniformed squad policeman. He and his buddies would come to the club, get drunk, harass girls, start fights, get the police called to them, and miraculously get out of it with no charges. Now, the revenge. Susie asked 3 girls to take a night off to help her. That night, they got dressed and went out on the bar downtown. They drank, but not too much, flirted a lot, and made themselves remembered. At 11 p.m. or so, Susie left them in the bar and had a friend drive her to a drug dealer spot. He was still there, getting ready to pack up and go. She went down from the car some distance from him, walked toward his alley like she's drunk. She entered the alley, ignoring him. He came after her, angry, shouting at her to get out. She acted like she wanted to pee, and he probably thought a pretty woman drunk in his alley, maybe this is his chance. He got close to her, and from her hip, she drew a knife and stabbed him right in his neck. He felt like a sack, and while he bled there, she looked for a stash and found it. Took half his drugs and gun. She came over him with the gun and shot him twice in the chest, and one in the head, pro execution style. Then she left the alley back to the car, taking the bloody knife and the gun and the drugs with her. Wait, that's not the end of the story. A couple of weeks passed. She heard the bully's son had entered a club where he found a few of his friends were working that night. She got there before he got kicked out and went for his car. She broke in and left the drugs in the front seat and the gun in the back seat. The knife was thrown, still with bloodstains on it, in the trunk. The gun and knife was now fingerprint clean, of course. Sure enough, police was called, and when they got there, they knew who he was. It was a family matter now. So they just detained him until his father or uncle would get there. The uncle got there first, in his cruise car, and took him aside to have a talk. They walked to his car, where the cop uncle couldn't have not seen the drugs or a gun. Sure enough, he flipped his junk on the guy, slapped him in the parking lot, where everyone can see the son's still in cuffs. Uncle took the gun and the drugs, wrapped them in an evidence bag, and tossed it in his cruiser. The son was released home to his very angry dad. The uncle got back to the station to find out he was temporarily relieved from duty. The station got 10 phone calls from people who saw him slap him in handcuffs. Big screw up. Worse than that, the next cop who came in with the police car found undocumented evidence in it. Drugs and a murder-related gun. Guess whose fingerprints were on the gun? Uncle was now a murder suspect, and the only way he'd get out of it is by telling where the gun really came from. It would still get him fired, but not murder suspect. Or so we thought. They found a knife with the blood in the son's car, except it wasn't the son's. It was registered for the father, the detective. The one that the late drug dealer was his snitch. The one that heard he was murdered and just shrugged and said, nah, another dead piece of junk, no one cares. So now, he was a murder suspect too. Finally, we get to the end. These 2 corrupted cops went away for a long time. The son didn't have the police protection anymore. For a while, he behaved nice, or didn't get into any troubles, but eventually got back to his old ways. 3 months later, he was charged for assault in a bar and went away for a while too. So as he left after that term to study somewhere else. No one heard from her after that. The girls involved swore to never talk about it. Obviously, they didn't keep it. I met a few of them in a reunion, and over too many happy liquids, they happily remembered how one rapist jerkhole got what he deserved. My god, if that's real, that's crazy. Susie, you murderer. Susie, what? You can't just go around murdering people. Sounds like they were dealing with a really corrupt police force. I wonder if they never would have been corrupt, they never would have all went to jail after that and one ended up dead. That was dumb. You know, I'm not sure if I like that story. I'm not sure if I like r/Supernova Revenge. You guys let me know down in the comments. Do you guys like r/Supernova Revenge? Was that explosive enough for you? You know, I'm not really sure how I feel right now. Anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like it, don't forget to like it. And if you're not, subscribe. We do videos all the time. If you want to suggest some, suggest it. We take suggestions all the time. If you want more ProRevenge or revenge stories, you can just click up at the top right here. You can watch more revenge stories. Hi, I'm Mr. Red Readings, and I just read 4 stories with my mic on mute. Anyways, welcome back to another Reddit reading video. Those stories that I read earlier, good thing that my mic was on mute, kinda, because they weren't that good. I picked some different ones. I still didn't read these ones. I never ever read these. I always go with the cold read during the video. We're gonna be doing the ultimate revenge challenge inspired by Fresh, just like last video. But this time we're gonna be adding another sub into the mix. Glenn was like, why don't you include regular revenge, you idiot? No, I'm just kidding. They didn't say all that. But that's a great idea. We're gonna read a regular revenge, a petty revenge, a pro revenge, a nuclear revenge, and the almighty r/Supernova Revenge. Let's just go ahead and jump into this one. In r/regular revenge, we got Disneyland scam. My girlfriend was going to a dapper day at Disney with some friends. I didn't want to go, mostly because I couldn't until 6 p.m. However, she kept bringing it up, so I decided I was going to surprise her and just show up later that evening. I didn't want to pay full price for the ticket that I'd only be using for a couple of hours. So I headed to Craigslist. Never had a bad experience there, said no one ever. I find a legitimate seller willing to meet up at the park. In fact, he's an employee, and I'm getting a pretty good deal. Nothing about this whole transaction seems suspicious, except that at the last minute, he couldn't meet at the park, so I met at his house. Get to the park, scan the ticket to get in, and a giant red light goes off on the machine. Disney employee's like, this ticket has been used already. I'm pissed. So I called the guy, which he told me to do if I had any trouble. No response. In the end, I buy a ticket and get in. It was there at the happiest place on earth that I hatched my revenge. I just had to put on Craigslist, I added my own. I gave the name of the guy who sold me the ticket, along with his phone number and address. The ad was along the lines of mail for mail, looking for fun. I said that I worked at Disney, gave my favorite characters and movie too. I also said what I'm into, like really into, to send me pics of what you're packing. I refresh the ad every month for 3 months. OMG, I looked under one of these revenge stories and someone was trying to figure out how to get like collect calls to spam people's phone numbers, and some guy was like, no, don't do that, just post the ad on Craigslist and keep refreshing it. People are bound to call them so many times they have to change their phone number. This guy actually went through with that. That's some nice little regular revenge. And apparently what that guy did was very common. My Disney experience said, used to work with the fraud department. These tickets have been sold upwards of 150 times. I could pretty much guarantee you the guy doesn't work for the park. Wow, what does he do? Like dig him out the trash can or something? How does he get these? Okay, anyway, on to the r/petty revenge. I don't know if I mentioned this, but some of these stories are going to be pretty short just because we have to read 5 stories. So they can't be, extra long, triple XL. Okay, r/petty revenge. Tried to take up an entire train seat? Guess I'm going to have to be your new best friend. I take the train to work every morning. It's nice to sit and have a coffee and get ready for the day on the way in. In the trains, most of the seats will fit 2 people, except for the end carts, which can fit up to 4, and the trains fill up on the way. Usually, people have to stand in the aisle if they have the misfortune of getting on at the later stops. Luckily, I have an early enough stop that there's always seats available. I noticed that there was this guy who was getting on and taking one of the in-car seats and spreading his bag and computer and everything else across the seat so no one else can sit at the end of the car seat. So I've made it my goal every morning to find him on the train, and before he's able to pull all his junk out and spread all over the seat, to sit down right across from him. So far, I'm up to 8 days in a row. Dang, that's pretty petty. That is some petty revenge right there. I'm not gonna lie, if that was me, I would probably do the same thing because sometimes I can get a little bit petty. I would honestly just try to ask them, like, do you mind moving your bag? And if they didn't do that, I would just sit on their stuff and be like, oh, it was a free seat. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know bags got to get their own seat. No, I'm just kidding. On to the r/ProRevenge. This is literally like 30 minutes later. I'm gonna try this thing where I read them, but like a little break in between, because I noticed at the end of the video, like during the end, the last couple stories, I always are like a little bit choppy, so hopefully my reading is better. A lot of people have commented that I need to start reading better, like my reading sucks, or like, you freaking suck, get out of here, quit your YouTube channel. I'm gonna try and make it better, so this is my attempt. Guy tried to screw me over with my apartment damage fees. Backfired on him. I'm a college student, and I desperately needed to find a sublease for the past spring and summer, so I ended up finding one at a pretty nice apartment complex in my city. The guy, we call him Bob, seemed cool. We had a mutual friend. Everything went great. However, Bob wants the sublease under the table without the office getting involved. Okay, no worries. I've done this before. It's a 4 out of 4 with 3 other male roommates. This is important for later on. I have a 2-year hound mix. She's a great dog, but she gets terrible anxiety during thunderstorms. One day, I'm at work and we have probably the biggest thunderstorm we've had this year. She flips out and tears the edges off the carpet to my room. My dad has a guy who came in and did an estimate on the damages. Told me it would cost between $200 and $400 to recarpet the room. Cool, no problem. I can afford that. Bob sees the damages and I tell him I'll cover the damages caused by her. Anyways, I move out in July, a month passes, I'm on vacation with my family, and this mother lover Bob decides to call my dad and mom repeatedly. Then his mom calls them. I have no idea how they even got my parents' numbers. They tell my parents that the apartment complex is charging them $4,000 for a carpet of 10 by 10 room, that I have until the end of September to pay it or they take me to court. My dad is pissed because he knows the damages shouldn't cost that much. He contracts a leasing office and asks them for a breakdown of the damages. I don't know, but he managed to get them to tell him. The carpet damage in my room would cost $273. All the other charges were for damages the original tenant and his roommates did. So we contact Bob, and he's saying that the other roommates were supporting his claim that my dog had caused all the damages in the house. Firstly, can someone please explain to me how it's my dog's fault that they caused a bottle of wine to explode on the ceiling of the kitchen? Or how she managed to destroy the dishwasher? Or one of the guy's bathtubs? My parents, the lawyer, and me have a little get together. I never signed any document making me an official resident of the apartment. Therefore, I wasn't liable for any damages whatsoever. However, because I'm not an a-hole, I was still willing to pay for the carpet damage. We contact Bob and he refuses the offer of payment. His mom says that she wants me to pay for everything. But no, I'm not going to. Because I'm petty though, I contacted the leasing office. I gave them the documentation of me living there, and now the office is not only charging Bob and the other roommates the $4,000, they are suing for a breach of contract because he had an illegal tenant. They should have just taken the $273. And this is a picture of the real MVP of the story. Oh, so cute. That's exactly what that guy gets. Bob deserves to be screwed like that. Did he really think he was gonna get away with that? Like with no documentation of him living there? He thought he was gonna be able to get him in court. Like what was the judge gonna say? Dumb people do dumb things, and he couldn't just take a nice smart deal to get his carpet fixed. Poor guy. You almost feel bad for him. Okay, on to the r/nuclear revenge. Shoot my uncle and disappear? Backstory, this was over 50 years ago, and I'm sure no one involved is still alive. I was told this by my father during a hunting trip when my father was a little drunk one night. 50 years ago, I don't think any of those people even know what Reddit is. On to the story. As said before, this happened over 50 years ago. My father and his brother and my uncle and a few of their bike/trucker friends were in a bar drinking. While enjoying the drinks and the music, a small bar fight broke out between two guys a couple of tables away. My uncle has always been a nice guy and would never raise a hand in anger and go out of his way to help others. He gets up, walks over, and separating the two guys and tells them just knock it off and enjoy their beer. My uncle is above 6'8" and was strong as he was tall. The two guys sat down and one just gave my uncle a dirty look. My uncle rejoined my father and his friends and went back to enjoying their drinking. The guy with the dirty look got up and left the bar. My uncle was sitting with his back to the door when the guy came back and walked in right behind my uncle. Before anyone could act, pulled a gun and shot my uncle in the back. The guy turned and ran back out of the bar, got into his truck, and drove off. One of my father's friends grabbed the other guy and took him outside and got the information about his friend. I told him to leave town and never come back if he knew what was good for him. They took my uncle to the hospital as it would be faster than waiting for an ambulance back then. The next day, after a long surgery, my uncle was going to survive, but the bullet severed his spine and he would never walk again. Once they knew he was going to live, my father and about 5 other friends took their info they got and tracked down the shooter, busted down his door in the middle of the night, took him and his gun someplace my father would not say. At this place far enough away, no one would ever know or hear what was happening. They beat him up for hours until his arms and legs were pretty much mush, and my father said the man just disappeared that night. The police asked about what happened to my uncle, but was told it happened so fast, nobody saw a thing. The bartender was a friend and said the same. I lost my father over 33 years ago to cancer. And my uncle, well, he lived for a good life until complications to his legs, and they had to be removed, and he passed about 20 years ago. I feel safe on writing this as there is nobody alive connected to that night. God bless my father and his friends for not allowing a coward such as this guy to walk away without a bunch of karma getting him. I miss you, Dad and Uncle Jay. Okay, this guy needs to... That was a good story, but this guy needs to know the difference between no and no. And man, 50 years ago was a scary time. You could just get taken up out of your house and beat to a bloody mush. Though he did deserve that for coming up and shooting that guy in the back for stopping him from getting his butt whooped probably. That is some nuclear revenge. They literally killed the guy. They beat him to death. Jesus. If that's what r/nuclear revenge has, I wonder what r/supernova revenge is about to do. I'm scared. I'm kind of scared right now. For r/supernova revenge and the rest of them, I intentionally pick short ones because a lot of them are at least 15 paragraphs long, and to read 5 stories of 15 paragraphs long, this video would be like 2 hours long. But psychopathic bully gets his head crushed by one of his victims. This story is from my grandfather and takes place in around 1942 in a small town in Idaho. His memory is bad and so is mine, so I'll take most details with a grain of salt. My grandpa was a tough person, even when he was a child. A bit of a jerkhole, even. But this was the 40s and people were different back then. He was also a small child, and that attracted a lot of bullies. There was one bully, however, who was worse than most. His brothers would actually back him up, but this kid came along after his older brothers moved to a different school and left him with his younger siblings. This was the 1940s, so the bully got away with absolutely psychopathic levels of beatings, and he would even sometimes involve friends and beat them in a gang. Great-grandfather would do nothing, and he told him to be a man. So he did. One day, Grandpa hid behind a corner of a building, where he knew the bully passed every single day. When the jerko stepped past the corner, Grandpa swung a brick at his head, as hard as he could. The kid's skull caved in. Grandpa described it as being like an ashtray, and he hit the ground. Grandpa can't remember if he died or just had severe brain damage, but nobody messed with Grandpa after that. Oh my goodness, the 40s, like the old times, were like, those were different times. Like back then, I bet you he didn't get in trouble. Like kids can just beat you senseless. These days, at least everything is like recorded. So if some kid gets beat to a bloody pulp, like they know, that kid's kind of crazy and he gets shunned. Screw living in the old days. Screw that. Anyways, what do you think? Is that some supernova revenge? Do you think that is the most crazy revenge you've ever heard? Is this sub all it's cracked up to be? I like this story a lot better than I did the story yesterday for the supernova revenge. I think I might just got a bad pick. Anyways, if you like these, let me know down below. Like and subscribe if you want to continue. Today, we'll be sorting by top of all time and be reading the #1 story on r/ProRevenge. The #1 story upvoted by everyone deciding that is on the sub. Decided that this is the #1 best revenge story that is out there. It's the best revenge story on Reddit right now. So this better absolutely blow my socks off. I better be blasted out of this time zone. I'm just kidding. I don't want to hold it that high standards, but this should be really good. If you guys have any suggestions for stuff that you want me to go over, just let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video throughout. Let's get into the video. r/ProRevenge. Coworker tried to get me fired over breast implants, so I pulled a reverse Uno card. 4 years ago now, when I was 24, my mom died of breast cancer. And as both of my grandmothers had also died of it, I saw a specialist for a screening. I found out I had some cells in one of my breasts that could have turned cancerous at any given moment. I was told I have a few options. 1. I could have regular screenings every 3 to 4 months until it does develop into cancer. I was told that the risk of cells becoming cancerous was very high due to the family history. But it could also potentially never could turn, so I'd just be getting these screenings for no reason. 2. I could get a single mastectomy on one breast with the bad cells, but they need to keep an eye on the other one, so I'd still need regular checkups for the other breast. 3. I could get a bilateral mastectomy and remove all my breast tissue, basically eliminating the risk. I went in for the bilateral mastectomy. It was admittedly the most drastic option, but after seeing what cancer did to my mom and grandmothers, I didn't want to risk it. I was warned about scarring, but told it should be fairly minor. It wasn't, and I was left with 2 huge pink jagged scars on either side of my chest, each about 1 inch long and 1/2 inch wide, and it caused me to go into severe depression, where it got to the stage of me not even leaving my flat because I didn't want people to see me, throwing out my mirrors and getting physically sick looking at myself. I went to a therapist who suggested a plastic surgeon. The therapist said they never normally do it, but it was clearly something I was struggling with, and I might never get over it, and the therapist could see I was struggling with it. Although, I'll admit, the therapist did send me to ask about scar reduction. The plastic surgeon suggested a cream, a laser, or implants. The cream didn't work, and the lasers were both expensive and risky, so I went with the implants. My natural boobs were an F cup, so I went with a slightly smaller double D, since my mental health was improved, and I feel a lot better about the way I look. My confidence has gone up, and as my self-esteem. I know I shouldn't put so much into my appearance, but I wasn't exaggerating about these scars. Huge, bright pink, jagged, raised, just awful to look at, and I hated seeing myself. And they are now nicely hidden away, and you could barely feel them. In the present day, I'm 28 years old and working in an office. I'm doing a lot better than I was. My coworker, Jill, found out that I had a boob job, but not about the cancer thing. When myself and my friend from years before the mastectomy were planning a holiday, and she made a joke about me going on a plane with my implants, and Jill overheard. By the end of the day, the entire office knew I had a boob job, but not why, and half a dozen people confirmed that Jill had told them. Over the next few months, Jill made many jokes and comments about my chest to coworkers when I was in earshot, at one point saying I had more plastic than Barbie, and calling me fake in 2 ways. I didn't hear this one myself, but my friend in the office told me that Jill had at one point referred to me as sack of silicone. I don't care what her problem was exactly, but at one point she mentioned the NHS, so I'll assume Jill thought I had got my tits done for free on taxpayer money. I had gotten a mastectomy on NHS, but gone private for the therapy and implants. I asked her to stop more than once, but unfortunately the places I had talked to her were places like the lift and the woman's bathroom, where there weren't any cameras, and Jill just kept making comments no matter how often I asked her not to. I wouldn't say it was every single day, but I heard at least 3 comments per week for 3 months. I hit my breaking point when me, Jill, and a few other coworkers were having lunch. I referred to something as being shallow, and Jill said, "You know all about being shallow," while gesturing to my chest. I snapped. I said, "Do you know why I have these? A few years ago, the doctors found potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I was advised to get a mastectomy and was left with huge ugly scars on my chest. I went to see a therapist who sent me to a cosmetic surgeon who advised me to get implants to hide my scars. And I did, just so I could look at myself in the mirror without crying. So maybe next time you want to judge someone for having cosmetic surgery, you should ask them why they had it first." And feeling like that was the mic drop moment, I picked up my food and left. For the rest of the day, I had about 1/3 of the office come up to me and offer support, and the rest tell me that Jill was just joking around, and I was being a B. I replied that Jill was being a B long before I was. I got an email from HR saying they wanted to talk to me the following day, and when I called for clarification, they mentioned a hostile work environment. This is apparently an American term and holds little weight in England, but it's what was said over the phone. I knew the person who signed off on the email and I'd spoken to. Her name was Debbie, and she was Jill's friend in HR, so I was fairly confident who had reported me. I realized that if she was already being sent to HR, I needed as much ammunition as possible, so I went about collecting information. As Debbie had dealt with me so far, it was safe to assume she would be the person reviewing the complaint with me. And if that was true, I was screwed. However, I vaguely remember a section of complaints that was in my contract when I first signed with the company. I flicked through the contract and there was a part in complaint section that said I was contractually allowed to request a change of reviewer if I felt my allocated reviewer was biased. It was called an impartial overseer. I photocopied the page and highlighted that part. When I messaged the people who had offered their support over Facebook and said basically, HR have asked to see me. Do you remember Jill insulting me to your face, or are you willing to write and sign something saying that you have heard and when? Not everyone was willing to help, as Jill was somewhat feared in the office due to her befriending HR and management, but about 20 people were willing to help me. I guessed roughly when I asked Jill to stop previously. The 4 asks were over the last few months. Some timings were easy to guess as they'd happen on my break or when I first arrived at work, and I wrote them all down, along with a rough time of when the lunchroom confrontation happened and a list of names who was there for the lunchroom confrontation. I got to work slightly early the next morning. I went around everyone who had messaged me, and most of them managed to give me a printed and signed letter. Some didn't manage to write one, but no big deal. This isn't the exact words, as there's 16 letters to sum up here, but the gist was, my name is, then their name. I work with Jill, an OP. On the date and time approximately, I spoke with Jill, during which she referred to OP as an insult. I felt as it was inappropriate, as it directly related to OP's appearance, and I'm willing to go on record further to establish that Jill has been discussing OP in the workplace in the same manner for 3 months now, causing me discomfort and creating what I feel is a hostile work environment. Signed, their name. I wound up with about 16 letters, all from different people, and the one of them was in the lunchroom for my conversation with Jill. Some have even bullet-pointed list of everything Jill had said to them about me or other people. As it turns out, Jill has an issue with a lot of people's appearance. She apparently made comments about one coworker's weight and something anti-Semitic about different coworkers' nose, all of which were put into these letters. There were about 45 people in the office, so while 16 wasn't a majority, it was still a decent amount. The letters weren't hugely long, most were only a paragraph, but they had all the necessary information. I was asked to come to HR at 10 a.m. I took the letters from my coworkers, then photocopied a page of my contract, and my dates and times in my little folder with me. I got there, and Debbie was the one overseeing the interview. She got up from her desk, ready to lead me into another room. I immediately turned to the HR worker that was currently there and said, "So is my meeting with you, then?" Debbie said, "No, you're with me." I replied that this wouldn't sit well with me, as my contract states I have a right to an impartial overseer. And as I said this, I took the contract page out of my folder. Debbie read it. I wouldn't let her take the paper when there was a shredder so close by, and said she could be impartial. I replied that I really don't mean to be a pain, but it had to be on good authority that the person on the other end of this complaint is her friend, and my contract does say I'm allowed an impartial overseer. Debbie stomped off to get the supervisor. Supervisor asked how I know she can't be impartial, and I tell her that I have it on good authority that the Jill, who was on the other end of this complaint, is a close friend with Debbie. He asked Debbie if this was true, to which she only said, "I can be impartial." Supervisor took a deep breath, asked the other HR rep to come with him, and the 4 of us all went to review the complaint. I thanked them for being so accommodating. I was worried I'd annoy them. Debbie took out the complaint, and all 3 of them went through it with me. Debbie looked homicidal the whole time that the interview was happening, as she had clearly anticipated firing me, or at least recommending me be fired. The interview went something like this. It took over half an hour, and they kept asking me the same question, but phrasing it in different ways. So this is a really drastically condensed version. Question. You said outside you think Jill reported you. Why is this? Answer. Jill has had an issue with me for about 3 months now. Question. Why didn't you come to us when you realized Jill had an issue? Answer. Because I had no issue with her. Question. What issue does Jill have with you? Answer. 4 years ago, a specialist identified potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I had surgery to remove my breast tissue, thereby removing the cells and the risk. After the surgery, I was left with large scars on my chest and went to a therapist for low self-esteem and depression. The therapist suggested a plastic surgeon who suggested breast implants to cover those scars. All of this is in my medical history, which you have a copy of in file, and my full permission to review. Jill found out about my breast implants, but didn't know about the cancer. Jill had a problem with my breast implants, and then decided to communicate this problem with our co-workers. Question. Why do you feel this is true? Answer. Here's 16 signed statements from all different co-workers, all testifying that Jill told the entire office I had breast implants on the day she found out, and has since made comments about these implants frequently. They have quotes of what Jill said to them about it in rough dates and times. Question. Rough dates and times? Answer. No one knew this would be escalated to such an extent, so no one really took notes as of when it happened. Question. What event or events do you think directly led to this complaint of harassment? Answer. For the harassment, for me, harassment began when Jill told everyone about my breast implants without my consent. But as for the complaint against me, it would probably be what happened about yesterday in the lunchroom. Jill made a comment about me being shallow while gesturing to my breast, and I replied by giving her an abridged version of my relevant medical history and ending with a comment about the importance of getting the full story. There were cameras in the lunchroom, so I'm sure you'll be able to find that conversation. I'll admit, I could have handled the situation better, but after 3 months, I felt I had to put my foot down. Here's a list of the names of people who were also present. There were 6 people at the table, including myself and Jill. One of these people is also in those letters and has written their account of the conversation and signed it. Question. Had you had a conversation with Jill prior to this regarding her comments about you? Answer. Several, spaced out over the last 3 months. Each time I communicated with her, I felt uncomfortable and upset at these comments and would appreciate if they were to stop. Question. To your knowledge, was Jill made aware of your former cancer at any point in time? Answer. No, it wasn't mentioned in the conversation with my friends when she overheard, and I didn't tell her because, frankly, it's none of her business, and I did not feel the need to detail my medical history to my coworker in order to avoid further sexual harassment. Supervisor stands up and says, "Well, I think we're done here." He shakes my hand and sends me back to my desk, saying I'd hear from them after they reviewed the evidence, letters, CCTV, medical history, and anything they had already, and made a decision on the case. I got back to my desk, pulled up my CV, and prepared to start the job search again. About an hour goes by, then the person who wrote the letter and was there for the lunchroom conversation gets called to the meeting with HR. They come back 10-ish minutes later. The other people who were also there for the lunchroom conversation got called in one by one, except Jill. All of them were gone for about 10 minutes, then come back, find a coworker, say that the HR wants to see them. Then, the people who wrote the letters but weren't there yesterday are also called in one by one, and each are gone for about 10 minutes each, some longer, some shorter. By about 3:30, it looks like everyone who wrote the letter or was there in the lunchroom had been interviewed. Then, finally, Jill gets called in. She's gone for about 30 minutes and comes back fuming. She glares at me while I work, but I ignore her. 4:30ish, Jill gets called into HR again. 5 p.m. rolls around. Everyone is either leaving or getting ready to leave. When Jill storms back into the office, she glares at me the whole time, packs up her desk. She starts to tell everyone who will listen to her that she got fired before shoving her face into the lift. An email comes from HR. My case is closed. Edit. I just wanted to add that regardless of my reasons for getting implants, it still should not have been harassed over them. It happened to be relevant here because it made Jill look like a real dick, which should probably be why she reported me. The top comment says, paper trails are often the undoing of petty, vindictive people. I've seen several times in my life providing said paper trail usually, and it's always satisfying. This one was exceptionally satisfying. Bonus, now you can tell people that your breasts are so magnificent they get people fired. I mean, if you want to. Wow, that is a good story. I can't believe they fired her so quickly. By the end of the day, boom, she was gone. Like, what really changed everything was her going in and finding where she could have someone impartial to look over the situation and actually bringing the supervisor and another HR rep to come in there. And the thing is, She pretty much fired herself. Jill fired herself because she's the one that put in the complaint that got her fired. What a genius. It's more like an idiot revenge. She got revenge on herself somehow. But bravo to her. That probably feels like such a big win in the office. Imagine having to work by someone that is always commenting on your appearance and feeling so down about that. And now, boom, they're gone. You could finally work in peace. I wonder if every one of those people like told the truth when we went there about the lunchroom, or if they were like Jill's friend and some of them were like, I never heard that happen. I will say this is a 9 out of 10. My favorite story ever still. I can't top this one. Is the one I read like a month or two ago about that lady that was in the school or whatever, and she was like a teacher. That was the best revenge of all time. I'm not sure if anything is ever gonna replace that. She got an entire school shut down and a bunch of people she hated fired and stuff. This though is still a very good story. There's a reason why it has so much upvotes. I don't know if that's just for boobs or because, you know, it's good. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed the #1 story on r/ProRevenge. If any story ever tops this, I will read that. If you want me to read the top stories on any other sub, just let me know down below in the comments. I take suggestions all the time. Remember at the beginning of the video, I said don't forget to like and subscribe. If you did that, thank you. That helps out a lot. I'm not sure how much because I'm still kind of new at this, but thank you. What's up you guys, and welcome back to another Reddit reading video. I'm sorry I've been gone for like 4 days. Pokemon Sword and Shield came out 4 days ago, and I have logged almost 52 hours within the time period. It's kind of a little much, but I was really excited for that game, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna take a little vacation. On other news, shout out to Eon. We're gonna be reading your story first. Thank you so much for submitting it in r/entitled parents. If you guys would like to, you can click the link down below and you can go straight to the story and upload it for yourself. On that note, let's get into the story. EA thinks my cousin is required by law to cover her nephew's medical bills for a minor injury that happened outside a daycare my cousin works at. Okay, I'm sorry if I don't detail much. I'm pretty much going off of what my cousin told me and whatever little bit I saw. Also, I think this happened around mid-August this year. Here's some context. My cousin, who I will call C, works at a daycare. It's one of the few daycares in our small town, and all of our members are really nice, so she grew used to this. Like I said, this happened around August. Entitled Aunt, EA, moved to our area a month before her nephews. EA didn't really familiarize herself with the neighbors, but I thought nothing of it. I really don't know why EA was taking care of her nephew exactly, but we only knew she had legal custody of him. She came in with her 4-year-old nephew in and told the receptionist that she wanted to bring in to C's daycare. Our receptionist, who legit has the patience of a saint, told her that she can absolutely sign up, and then directed her to head over to me to get the contract and agreements. So she came to sign them. She came over, took the clipboard with the contact, and then she didn't even think for a second to read it, but signed it anyways. Then she filled out the background of the child. Are you the legal guardian of the child? Is there any medicine that we have to administer to the child? Etc. Basic stuff. Usually, we allowed the first day as a trial day. EA comes back after the trial day, and presumably in a worse mood, and directs into the room where the first class was. Without paying, C, who was a worker on shift for watching the kids that day, asked EA if she paid yet for the season. She didn't, and she said to C that she wasn't told to do so for her first session, to which she tells her to go to the receptionist and pay, which she does, but angrily. She drops $10 on the table. Our receptionist points out to the sign saying 34. She then smacks a 20 and a 5 on the table. She doesn't take the change, and then blasts out the door. EA was bringing in for around 2 weeks, and once classes ended, she came somewhat late to pick him up. C usually lets the kids play in the playground across the street while the parents come. N was playing on the platform part of the park when EA came. N was told it was time to go, so N was trying to get down, and when halfway down, trips and falls into the wood chips. Now, EA was there, so therefore, C was not technically the person liable for any injuries. EA ran to N, and he did have a really big bruise on his wrist, but he wasn't moving it. The EA picked him up and went up to the C, and here's what I heard. I was in the car because I was with C that day, and she drops him off home after work. EA, how dare you let N fall and get hurt? This isn't professional. You probably aren't even licensed. Now N's broke his wrist. C, as stated in your contract, we can't be liable after hours. EA, but you were here, and it was your daycare here. C, we have permission to use the park so the children are occupied when they wait for someone to pick them up. You weren't here, and it's after hours, so we aren't liable. EA, we will see about that, and then stomp to her car. 2 weeks will pass, and we'll get a call from someone we don't recognize. Our receptionist picks up to find someone claiming to be EA's attorney. He was asking for C, and when she picked up, she said it was a lawsuit filed. She was actually trying to sue the company for negligence and medical bills. Let's just say the signed contract backed up the daycare. We don't hear much from them anymore, and there was rumors she moved away. Dang, what an entitled jerk. How about you come pick up your kids on time? How about that one? Don't you just... I just feel so bad for the kids that have to live with moms or guardians that act so entitled like that. Like, what are you teaching your kid? You're trying to teach them to act the same exact way, and they're gonna have a tough time growing up just because you wanted to be a jerkhole while they were a little kid. So that was a story from someone down in the comments. If you guys have any of the stories that you want me to read during these videos, just let me know down in the comments. You can link them down below. I allow links in my comment sections. I'll click on it, read them up, boom, bada bing, bada boom, done. On to another entitled parent story. Ian demands a slushie. So, while I was a senior in high school, I worked in a Kmart for Xmas season. One night, at about 10 p.m., right before closing, a mother and daughter walked in. The daughter looked like she was in pain, and the mother makes a beeline for me. Excuse me, can my daughter have a slushie? A bit of context, the Kmart I worked in was one that had a pizza chain in it. When open, served slushies. I'm sorry, I don't work for the pizza chain. I can't get you a slushie. My daughter just had her wisdom teeth pulled, and she needs a slushie to help her with the pain. I knew that it would make her daughter's situation a bit worse by causing a dry socket, plus only pizza chain employees were allowed to turn on the slushie machine or any beverage machine in the section. I can try, but like I said, I'm not authorized to turn on the machine. Just try. I proceeded to poop a cup and find a way to turn on the machine. Actually, I was just going through the motions. I'm sorry, I can't find a way to turn on the machine. Well, at least you can get her a soda or a water. My daughter's in pain. I told you already that only pizza chain employees can turn the machines on in their area, and they are closed. You are welcome to buy a bottle of water before we close. My daughter is in pain from her surgery and wants a slushie. If you can't get it, I will tell your manager. My manager arrived after seeing this on the camera, wondering why I haven't finished my closing duties. Asked me what's going on. Your employee won't give my daughter a slushie. Manager, well, he's not authorized to turn on the machine since only the pizza chain employees can do that, and they are closed at this time. The daughter and Ian will walk off in a big huff. I felt sorry for the daughter at this time. Some people's parents. Some of these trigger me when I read these. I'm just like, that poor kid. Like, I just want to smack that lady. I'm like, not actually smack that lady. Like, I'm not violent, but you know what I mean. She needs to be slapped by somebody. Jesus, slap her, please. Anyways, that's what she said was totally correct about not slurping through a straw causing dry sockets. I had to get 8 teeth extracted, not because they were like rotten or anything. I didn't have a cavity, but I had to get my 4 wisdom teeth taken out, and then I have really big canine teeth. They look really similar to what a vampire's teeth would look like. They're really sharp and really big. I was just born with them, so they're the size of about 1.5 of a tooth. So they had to take out the 4 teeth behind my top and bottom canine teeth. So I had to get 8 teeth extracted all at once. They actually had to put me into like they had to put me to sleep because they had to like drill underneath my bone under one side of my jaw to get my wisdom tooth out. But yeah, this is the reason I have braces now. But long story short, at the end they told me not to slurp anything to a straw, not to like, if you smoke, you don't want to smoke any cigarettes because any of that slurping motion could cause a dry socket. So hopefully this girl didn't go home and slurp a slushie and smoke a cigarette at the same time. I've heard it's not worth it. Just do not do it. If you're a smoker, I promise you that little bit of waiting is going to be a lot easier than if you have a dry socket. But back to that story. This is the thing that I can't stand about people is like, why can't you understand, like, people can't just do things just because you say so. That's like going into McDonald's and being like, I don't care, get me a Whopper now. Like, lady, what? What are you talking about? Like, what do you expect me to do, really? Some people have just always gotten their way by throwing a fit, and they think that throwing a fit can just get them anything. And that's how an entitled parent is born. I think that most entitled parents came from other parents that either let them be entitled as a kid or they got to watch their parents be entitled and learn that. Monkey see, monkey do. And yes, your kid's a little monkey, you entitled parent. No, I'm just kidding. The kid didn't do anything wrong. They were probably high on whatever they give you. I can't even remember what I took. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's probably short. I haven't even been recording that long. If you guys have any suggestions of subs that you want me to cover, just let me know down below. I have a Patreon down below. You can just look at it if you want to. Just look at it. I'm still just happy it got accepted. If you guys want to submit a story just like the person in the first story did, just like I said, link your story down in the comments. I'll click it. I'll read it. Doesn't matter if it has -5 million upvotes. I'll read it because thank you for the suggestion. r/malicious compliance video. And I really hope we see some good compliance today. This first one is going to be like, well, I think it's from an article. Here it is about Filet-O-Fish. McDonald's served a local burger joint with a cease and desist. This is the tiniest little itty bitty story that I have ever seen. Some parts are copied from the source we just saw. Paul Shuffett, the owner of a chef behind the local Woodshed Burgers restaurant, wasn't loving what he saw when he opened up his email on Wednesday. In his inbox was a formal cease and desist from McDonald's restaurant of Canada over one of his restaurant's burgers, the effing Filet-O-Fish. In compliance with the cease and desist, Shuffett renamed his burger to the McEffin Fish Fillet, his flippant way of complying with the massive company's cease and desist. Your turn, lawyers. Would be funny if they were in the EU, McDonald's lost their trademark to Big Mac, so he could call it Big Mac and they couldn't do anything about it. Wow. Stick it to the man, stick it to McDonald's. And hey, he followed the rules. He did change the name, that's all they asked. That was a short story, now we're moving on to a medium. This one just looks like it's about to be fantastic. Stars and golds and platinums just everywhere. 15,000 upvotes. This better be the best story I have ever read on this channel. You want a meeting to discuss our phone account? Okay. Let's have a meeting. I'm not sure if this belongs in petty revenge or malicious compliance, for there's a little of both. So sorry if this has been put in the wrong place. Either way, I've enjoyed my malicious revenge compliance, so I hope you do too. For the past few years, our business has been receiving telemarketing calls from an offshore call center trying to make an appointment for Optus Business Center. Every time they call, we'd politely tell them we're not interested and to remove us from the list, and they'd promise not to call us again. You can probably tell by my words every time that having ourselves removed from the list didn't work. It didn't work the first time, it didn't work the 50th time. Offshore are cheap and they get paid per appointment, so they are quite aggressive. It was clear a new strategy needed to be found, as it was taking too long for them to bugger off. So began my campaign for malicious compliance / petty revenge. Hi, we're calling the Optimus Business Center and we can save you 40% on your mobile phone bill. Can we come and see you tomorrow at 11 a.m? You can save me 40% on my mobile bill? That's 60 grand a month! What? How many phones do you have? 150 or so that I'm responsible for directly, plus a few others. The appointment is quickly confirmed. The next day, a salesman calls up and he's running early. We can meet earlier. I refused. Our appointment is at 11 a.m. after all. 11 a.m. rolls around and he walks in. We sit down in reception and go through the greetings. I then ask him if it's possible to make a telemarketing call stop now. He assures me that it is. And so I stand up, shake his hand, and thank him for coming. What? That's it? You could have said that over the phone. I point out that we did, many times, and it didn't work. And I hope that this waste of his time, 45-minute trip to Homebrush, Sydney, would perhaps teach him to mend his ways. Over the past 2 years, they have sent out 5 different reps to see us. They call for meetings, we accept them, shine them on about the value of the account, and they roll in to be greeted by me, dressed in a chicken suit. Made to wait in our meeting room for 20 minutes before being asked to be removed from the list, being turned away at the door. They sent 2 reps that time. I'm posting this today because it was visit number 6 and it was the best one yet. We got a repeat customer. I sat him down in the meeting room and played the video recording of our last meeting. Is that you? Yes, it's me. Didn't I follow up? Did we have a good meeting? I point out that I certainly enjoyed our last meeting and zoomed in forward to the video to the part where I explained we didn't have 500 mobile accounts. I needed to please remove us from the list, and you could see his heartbreak, which it did. Again, once he realized that whatever account he thought was being discussed today was not going to be discussed, which we also have on video. So we can go all Inception if/when he shows his face again. This is the kind man in his chicken suit. What a brave, brave soldier. Wow, that is some good compliance right there. Setting up that meeting, that is kind of more of a revengey, petty revenge, slightly pro-revenge. 6 times in a row, and having this Inception film is a little bit pro-revenge, I'm not gonna lie. Good on them though for getting those telemarketers like that. I wish I could do something like that. This has like almost little to nothing to do with what I just read, but yesterday I saw this video on Reddit where these people called Domino's and called Papa John's and like made them talk to each other over the phone. It was hilarious. They were like, "This is Papa John's, would you like our deal?" He was like, "No sir, this is Domino's, would you like our deal?" Alright, I need to stop before I start rambling. This is our large or long story for the day. I don't know if it's large or long, I just see the L right there. Send in a shoddy application until it's just make do. You got it. So this just happened today. First, a little bit of backstory and context. I work for an agency that specializes in disaster relief. I'm basically a professional nitpicker, and it works like this. When a town or city or some other place suffers from some kind of disaster and want to get reimbursed for the damages and repairs expenses and like that, they contact us and send in an application. This application has to include certain kinds of documents in order to be eligible for any funding, and some of those documents have to be laid out in a certain way. For example, if you have to hire a bunch of laborers to help clear debris or something, you have to tell me who worked and how many hours on which day, how much they were paid per hour, how much they were paid in total, that sort of thing. If your application gets to me and it doesn't have the bells and the whistles, one of 3 things happens. Your application is rejected, your application is sent to the chain minus whatever can't validate, meaning you get less money than what you were originally asking to be reimbursed for, or I send it back to you to be reworked. I usually do everything I can do to avoid the first 2 because I know how hard it can be to recover from disaster when you have to pay for stuff out of your own pockets. But today, I made an exception, courtesy of some good old-fashioned malicious compliance. So I get this new project. It lands on my desk with a thud. It's an application from a small rural town and only a few hundred people that's heavily damaged by severe rains and flooding. Trees knocked over, power lines destroyed, you name it. They got hit real bad and had to hire a lot of people to help clean up afterwards. They were applying for over 20 grand in reimbursement. Anyways, I'm parsing through it, going over the checklist, making sure everything is in order. About 5 seconds in, I realized that whoever put this garbage pile of the project together either didn't know what they were doing or didn't care enough to find out. Shoddy or missing paperwork, broken files, incoherent notes and add-ons, you name it. So I make a list of all the things that were wrong with the project and I call up the project supervisor. In other words, the guy the town hired to put the application together to see if he and I could work together to fix them. I tell him I won't be able to validate the project for the full dollar amount with what I've been given. But the guy cuts me off, calls my competence, intelligence, and professional integrity into question, accuses me of trying to stiff the town, and calls me several choice names. He ends by saying I'd better make do with what I've been given, and it's not his job to do anything more than what he's already done. I'm pissed, but I hang up the phone and go talk to the boss. I asked the boss what I should do. I already knew what he was going to say, but I wanted to make sure I covered all my bases. Sure enough, he sympathizes, tells me to validate whatever cost I can and ignore the rest. I tell him that doing this will result in a drastic reduction of the amount of money the town received. He tells me it's not the agency's problem if the project supervisor refuses to cooperate. Malicious compliance activated. I go back to my desk, I do exactly what the boss instructed. I validate the cost that I can and ignore the rest. I dang well make do with what the project supervisor has given me. Just like he said, the amounts to little over $5,000. I double check my work, then triple check before kicking it up to the chain for final review. The whole project was done and dusted by lunchtime. I also know I'm going to get an earful from the project supervisor, and I'm not disappointed. Around 2 in the afternoon, I get a call from him. As soon as I pick up, he starts ranting at me. As soon as he does, I call the boss over. I tell him my boss is on the line, and the boss basically tells the guy it's his own stupid fault. The project supervisor doesn't care and continues to scream at me. He says that I'm trying to cheat him by leaving him out the missing funds. He finally pauses because he has to breathe. I smile and tell him that he'll have to make up with what I've given him, and that it's not my job to do anything more than what I've already done. I hang up before he can say anything else. Then I call up the guy's town city hall who hired the project supervisor and let them know what happened and exactly who to blame. And since this small town gossip spreads faster than the bubonic plague, I bet you anything the project supervisor will find himself on the receiving end of the entire town's hatred by this time tomorrow. And he deserves it. Wow, I wonder if that affects how much the guy's gonna get paid. Like, I wonder if he gets paid a commission of that amount. First of all, that sucks for the city that put in that relief money, but they'll probably cover the rest, not gonna lie. Cities have a lot of money. Even small towns have a lot more than normally people expect. But that guy got some crazy compliance revenge. This seems like revenge. This is like, it's always way more satisfying when someone tells them a line that tries to ruin their day, and then they go and just say that line right back, and they're like, what? Just speechless. Copy my answers? Have fun with that F. So this just happened today at school, so it's still fresh in my mind. We were in algebra and we were taking a test. The teacher was out in the classroom for a bit, and someone asked for the answers. Now, I had secretly hated this kid for almost a year because he had destroyed my $210 phone and only paid me back $20 and said, hopefully this will be enough for the screen protector. So, anyways, it turned out that he skipped the question, so he accidentally had about 75% of the answers in the wrong box, making them all wrong. He asked me to erase them for him so he could copy my answers because his arm hurt. I was just about done with mine, so I finished and erased his, but instead of giving him the answers, I turned my paper in. He now has 5 to 10 minutes to answer about 30 questions. The teacher had walked back in while he was pleading with me and asked what was going on. I told him David was trying to copy my answers. No regrets. Edit, getting a lot of comments about how he broke my phone, so here's the story. I tried to keep it brief. We were at a youth group at our church, I'm Catholic, and was scrolling through my photos to show to my friend. I scroll past one of David looking very less than good. Friend starts laughing and tells me to go back to that picture, so I do, and he starts just dying laughing. A few more people came over to see what was happening, and one of them was David. He sees the picture and just snatches my phone out of my hand and runs to the bathroom. I'm banging on the bathroom door and telling him, give me my phone back. He runs out of the bathroom while I'm screaming at him and holding it in his arm. He then just slams my phone into the ground. The screen was completely shattered and the home button didn't work. Oh look, there's the phone. Screw you, David. Well, that's some pretty good compliance right there. He went all the way with erasing his answers and then giving it back to him. He has some big cojones for that. David pretty much deserved it for freaking out like that and not being able to control his fragile emotions. To be fair though, if it wasn't for my friends, I always had one of my best friends in my math classes. If I didn't have them in there, I would never have passed high school. Shout out to my friends. Next story is ex-wife tells me take handling the kids more seriously. So I did. This is a mix of revenge and malicious compliance. Hopefully this is the right place. Background, kinda long but also important. So I'm happily divorced dad of 2 beautiful kids, a 5-year-old girl and almost a 4-year-old son. My ex and I met at a home state of Illinois. She was a Navy brat, so our family is from Texas. We fell in love very quickly, got married after a year, and was expecting my daughter after 3 months. My son followed almost 4 to 6 months after my daughter was born. A month after he was born, I found out she was cheating on me with at least 5 guys. Later, I found out it was around 8. Obviously, I filed for divorce. I got the lawyer, changed my banking accounts, and presented her the papers. The first copy was rejected for a reason I can't quite remember. Upon revision, I had my lawyer also change the custody from me having the kids to every other weekend to every single weekend. Much to his surprise, she signed it. We shared the kids accordingly. She was super pissed, but there was nothing she could do about it. And when she/I could no longer afford to live in the state, she moved back to Texas. Fast forward 2 years without seeing the kids, I couldn't afford to see them except one Christmas. I got out of the Navy, moved back home, and I got the kids for 3 months. I was appalled by their development delays. Both kids were rated the bottom 5% of the kids their age. My daughter didn't have a clue about potty training at 3, barely speaking, and had no awareness of adult authority. My son was not even close to walking, non-verbal, wouldn't eat most meats, and was afraid of grass. When I returned them, my daughter would listen to adults, was potty trained, was speaking in almost complete sentences. My son was walking, saying some words/hand signals, and eating a variety of different foods. I worked my butt off to get them there. Also, I spent a lot on 2 times a week therapy for both kiddos. Money well spent. Anyways, I stayed in Illinois for about 1.5 to 2 years, gathering up enough money to move to Texas. I had a little amount saved, but I started dating a girl who I came to find out also wanted to move to Texas. So we pulled our money together and moved down. Almost done with the background, guys. We got moved down to Texas and lived at a hotels for a month. Found jobs, found a place, and moved in. I worked in a sales position in a large bulk type store, and my girlfriend works at a sandwich place. At this time, my ex and I are not going by the divorce decree custody days because of convenience. Well, a person ended up quitting the job, and I had to take their hours. So my girlfriend got permission to bring my kids to her work. The GM loves them. Well, they were being toddlers, and she texted mutual friends of my ex and me asking if she could watch the kids for a few hours. That got sent to my ex. My ex and new hubby got pissed, and they came to my work and chewed me out for saying I need to take the kids' well-being more seriously. Roger that, suckers. Now, I realized I messed up that day. I was not mad at what they said. I was pissed at the fact that they did that in front of my trainee, a customer, and coworkers. Malicious compliance/revenge. During my setup phase, I was not paying for full child support, which was kind of them, but that ended because I was now taking things more seriously. The next morning, I talked to my boss, told him what had happened, and informed him that I could not work at the time specified on my divorce decree because now that I'm taking things more seriously, I will now have these kids every weekend. He then transferred my ex the remainder of the child support, informed her that she was right and I needed to take things more seriously. So I will be by after work to pick up the kids for my court-appointed custody. She was confused, but agreed. Then I called her on Friday evening to see if she had everything prepared for the weekend stay. Medications for my son. She flipped out, saying that we had plans all day Saturday and church Sunday morning. Then she screamed, "What the F are you making these demands all of a sudden?" Well, I'm just taking the kids and our agreements more seriously. I ended up letting them have the kids Saturday and picked them up Sunday morning. I then informed my ex and hubby that we would need at least a week's notice for any change in plans on weekends in case we had things planned. Generally, if they wanted to do something special with the kids, if we didn't have plans, even the last minute. Since I was taking things more seriously, my girlfriend and I kept every meticulous record of any injury, diaper rash on my daughter from not wiping correctly, physical appearance upon pickup. We would treat said rashes, note any changes in a little black book, and then take a photo of the pages and the timestamp. When they returned, we would then note any worsening of the rash or non-treatment. We also signed the kids up for more therapy since they were still very much behind. This went on a few months until, surprise, my ex had enough and brought me to court, forced the changes she wanted. I presented the judge with everything. the doctor's notes I had from day one, the doctor's notes from my ex with conflicting information. These notes were things that she would tell the state-funded therapist for my son, as well for all the expenses for the therapies I was giving my kids. Then I showed our notes, the printed timestamp of the photos, and the many times any rashes would be present or worsened when we got the kids. My ex broke down into tears since she brought her entire family and several friends for support. The increase of the child support she wanted was shot down, and instead was almost half since I was making less than I was prior. The expenses I had for the kids, and my overall time for the kiddos. The change in sole custody she desperately wanted? Well, the judge ordered it to stay the same, with the change of alternating Sundays. Slightly annoying. Walking out, she asked me through the tears, "How could you do this to me?" To which I replied, I was taking things with the kids seriously. Edit, I have never restricted my ex from the kids. If she wants to have them for whatever reason, and I have no plans, I will let her take them from my time. Edit 2, for all you suckers who are saying I neglected my kids by not seeing them for 2 years, I was in the Navy. I tried to see them, my leave kept getting denied because of my medical BS. I FaceTime them every day. I requested to say goodnight to them whenever I was able to. If you have never been in the military, it is hard to understand how hard it is to get leave. I can attest to that last statement. My wife is in the military and she wanted to take 3 leave days for her birthday. They were like, 1, take it or leave it. She was like, what? When it was her, she was turning 21. This is like last month. She was turning 21 and she was just like, I want to have the day off afterwards because I want to have my first, legal drink. Legally. So yeah, they do have a hard time getting off for leave. That was like, I really thought it was going to be like petty revenge, like during the background and like the beginning of the revenge. It didn't really seem like it was going that far. But when he started documenting all the things about the kids and taking pictures and timestamp, I knew that was going to be some very hard malicious compliance. He took it very, very seriously. But honestly, the wife deserves that. It almost sounded like they were neglecting / abusing the kid to an extent. So bringing all that and noting it up is just like, he should have done that in the first place, but it's good that he got it done. Kids don't deserve that. My thought is like, kids don't deserve, even little kids, if they do bad things, they don't deserve to be treated badly. They don't understand. They're just kids. Alright, that was a long story, so we're going to do 2 more short ones. I said short, but this one says medium. The next one says short. They're both pretty small. That way I don't talk you guys' ear off for 36 hours. No, I'm just kidding. But this r/malicious compliance is a nearly 200-person MC. This took place around 2012-ish. The pride of high school was always a marching band. For the reason that the band was a quarter of the nearly 800 students at the school, we had about 185 students of the year when this compliance happened. So every year, the band went on a trip out of state to compete in a Bands of America competition. It was a trip everyone looked forward to. We did a ton of fun things, missed a week of school, and the last day there competed for a professional stadium. The band director would call and schedule things for us so we don't randomly show up at a mall or McDonald's or do something and him throw 200 kids at them. We had called ahead at the mall to work out eating at the food court, and that was the easiest while we were traveling there. He usually planned these in the trips when it was time for the bus driver to rest for a couple hours, and we were allowed to get food and shop in the mall. So we get to this point in our trip and we're given a speech to behave ourselves, and reminded that the consequences if we don't. We go inside and start shopping and eating, and then everyone gets stopped by the mall security. Then, over the intercom system, it was announced for the city high school students to come to the front of the mall area. They said they had a rule that didn't allow kids to be in the mall past 6th, not even with adults. Not even a quarter of us have eaten. No one had caused problems, yet they wanted us out. My band director gets a hold of the person that he planned it with, and they agree, if we go in 5 kids to every adult, we can continue as planned. The cheeky grin on the security guard's face said, there's nearly 200 students. You would need 40 adults, and you only have 7. It's forever burned into my head, as is the drop of the face of my senior. Raised his hand and said, I am 18, I count as an adult. And then all of us, 18 and up students, stood up and started pulling out IDs. Smug, the security guard checked every ID and gave out wristbands to the adults. We had enough 18-year-olds that we technically didn't need chaperones that came. So they all sat around and watched us 18-year-olds hand out 5 kids. And no harm came to them all. The security guard was very grumpy, and had the adults needed, we would have gotten our food. We got our food. I bought suspenders and a panda hat from the Hot Topic, like I did every band trip. And we placed fairly decently that year. What an absolute terrible rule. Yeah, that is a horrible rule. The mall where I live, I think it's past 7 o'clock. After 7 o'clock, like, everyone that's underage has to get out of the mall, and they'll check ID cards. They're always looking at me suspiciously, and my wife, because my wife looks like she's like 12. And I have braces, so I look like I'm like 10 sometimes. Not 10, but like 13. Also, I don't really have that much facial hair or anything, so it's just like, I don't look grown, we don't look grown, so they're always evil-eyeing us, and I'm like, get out of our way. That's nice, though. I bet they feel like they won the day on that one. Last one is hold my check Okay, let's cash it instead. And then I'll deposit the cash. So this was a few years ago. My terrible bank at the time had a policy about check deposits. Over a certain amount, maybe 500, they held them for 24 hours. Well, I got paid on Friday by my check. It was a small employer that didn't offer direct deposit. So every 2 weeks, I went to the bank after work. The tellers were still working, but apparently the processing day was over. So my 24 hours didn't start until Monday, and my money would finally be available Tuesday sometime. This was super frustrating, especially when the rent was due Saturday or Sunday. But the bank's policy allowed them to cash any check for customers as long as they had at least as much in their total accounts, which I did in savings. So this became my routine. Get paid, go to the bank, have them cash my check down to the penny, and then immediately deposit that cash, except for maybe 40 bucks. As you can imagine, this took the teller noticeably longer and simply depositing my check, but hey, policy is policy, right? That sucks. What a terrible bank. Navy, I've been with Navy, was it Navy Federal? That credit union, I think they're really good. If you have any suggestions of subs or stories that you want me to react to or read over, just let me know down in the comments. I take submissions all the time. We're going to read the first 3 stories that come up on malicious compliance. So we have, let's open up 3 tabs. Let's duplicate these. So boom, first one is going to be learned real quick about malicious compliance while doing high-end construction. That's going to be our first one. Second one's going to be, sorry boss, I don't speak Spanish. The third one is going to be, you want me to see a doctor? Boom, we have our stories of the day. We let luck and people's upvotes decide them. Now these better be fantastic. No, I'm just kidding. I don't doubt that these are fantastic. Almost all of them are really good, especially if they're at the top of the sub. Like I said in the last video, that was a one-off video. It didn't get really that many views, but I just, it was a topic about Reddit and robot reading videos. I just thought that it would be like fun to do it. It was fun to do it. Didn't get many views, but at least I had fun. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Learned real quick about malicious compliance while doing high-end construction. Years ago, I was doing construction for a casino in the restaurant portion, while another company was doing work on a hotel. The generic contractor was notorious for being a dick and insisted no extra work was to be done without prior written authorization and approval by the owners and architect. Basically, follow the plans exactly. This happens from time to time and usually find little mistakes and submit an update and approve the added expense. Not this time. 10 floors were built exactly per plan. The top 2 were luxury suites, marble floor to the ceiling in the bathrooms, really expensive stuff. Towards the end of the job, they are walking off the suite. Probably 95% of everything is done. Where's the light switch in the bathroom? Head electrician just smiles. None were in the plans, sir. We followed the plans to the letter. Just like you said, no lights, no switches. We could hear screaming several floors down. They ended up having to rip out marble in every bathroom to run a pipe for wire and the lights and switched, but didn't lift a finger until we were guaranteed in writing that we would be paid for the extra work. Well, that's pretty much what he gets for being a jerk and being like, no, don't do extra stuff, don't try and help, don't try and fix things, let me screw myself over and get you guys paid a little bit extra. I'm sure this one was a big winner for the person implementing the malicious compliance. Good on him. Followed the rules, did what he was supposed to do, and got a little bonus check out of it. Is it me or was this one like really small? That is a very small story. Good, small and satisfying. I like that. It just sucks that a lot of the small stories never get gilded just because they're little, I guess. People like to gild the bigger ones. Speaking of larger stories getting gilded, we got a large or long. I don't know if it's large or long. I never know. But it's gilded. Sorry, boss. I don't speak Spanish. I work at a hotel as a night auditor, and this malicious compliance begins with a small bit of information I was told when I was initially hired for the position. When I was interviewed for the position, this was very important later on. I was told by the HR lady that the hotel paid a bonus $100 for each foreign language I spoke well enough to serve our guests. Management cleared my $100 for speaking English after I passed through the evaluation period. My main language is Portuguese. At first, I was glad to be working the night shift. Mostly because my colleagues then, Mr. Castillo, was from Guatemala, so whenever any guest that spoke Spanish showed up, he handled it, and in turn, I handled any English-speaking foreigners. Naturally, he did a lot more work since the amount of Spanish-speaking guests was significantly larger than our English-speaking ones. Meanwhile, Mr. Castillo was in the process of learning English, and I had taken an interest in Spanish, so we helped each other out. Not long after, Mr. Castillo got a job paying several times over what the hotel did, and sadly, left me. My new colleague, a newly promoted bellboy, didn't speak English, though he could understand some, and didn't speak Spanish at all. In fact, he didn't even try to improve any of his language skills while I slowly kept improving my Spanish, trying to use more and more of it every day to serve our dear guests. As I started this month, I spoke to our front desk manager and asked him in plain Spanish what did I have to do exactly to receive my $100 bonus for speaking Spanish. He was surprised but said nothing more since the front desk got busy with checkouts and my shift was up. But a few days later, he mentioned that he spoke to HR and informed them I was speaking Spanish well enough to receive my bonus. And now, he was just waiting to hear back from them. A few days later, the HR lady asked me what size shirt I wore since we were going to be ordering new uniforms in the coming weeks, and took the opportunity to ask her about my bonus for Spanish, and she mentioned they were talking to our director about it. A day later, she informed me that they wouldn't be paying me for my bonus for a foreign language since it was on file that I was already receiving it. I replied I was receiving a bonus for English, not Spanish, and she would speak to the director again within a few days. All would be made well. Now, I was really in a hurry to get my bonus, but it would be really nice if they cleared it already, as it showed up in my next paycheck, but guess what? They didn't. Our director talked to HR again, and my boss told him, even though I'm serving our dear Spanish-speaking guests in Spanish, I don't in fact speak Spanish. I am far from fluent, but I can explain how the hotel works, direct guests to where they need to be, and assist them on what they need. Be finding a pharmacy at 3 a.m., getting a cab to go out to get drinks, or even hire an escort. Yep. But apparently, it isn't good enough for our director and the manager who said we really can't afford to fight him on it. Okay, no biggie, I guess. Maybe we'll try next year, when I can speak a little better. However, the cruel and unforgiving gods of the hotel industry gave me the perfect opportunity to strike back. Earlier last week, we received a large group of 30+ Spanish-speaking tourists, which in addition to our normal occupancy, meant we are effectively sold out for the week. Big groups are usually minor inconvenience when you're checking them in, but even bigger problem when they're checking them out. Especially if they're one person per room, which means you basically have a huge lot of rooms to check out, one by one. While an endless line forms in the front desk, 80+ checkouts are unusual for our hotel on Friday mornings, but 110+ is a problem. Normally, when the morning shift has a workload this big, our front desk manager comes in nearly to help. But he couldn't this time, since he took a personal day since his mother fell ill. That left our night director with just one choice: to ask a night audit to stay late to help until our reservations people clocked in and could then replace us at the front desk. See, my colleague doesn't like staying late, especially since he works a second job with his new father in the afternoon, meaning he only has the morning and early afternoon to sleep. I don't like staying late on Friday nights because of the amount of checkouts, which means it'll be forever before you can take a break, or even more so before you can leave. However, this time our director didn't even ask my colleague, and instead told me to stay late because we would have a sizable workload and about a third of it would require someone that spoke Spanish, or it would slow down everything to a crawl. I told him I wouldn't be staying late that morning, and before I can get another word of him, he started yammering about how I'm wrong, and I should be more of a team player, and that we would be very grateful for it. Wanting to get back to my sleep, I told him to ask my colleague, and he said he couldn't, that they needed me. When I asked him why, he clearly stated, we need 2 Spanish speakers that morning to make sure everything goes okay with the checkouts. Not one for missing an opportunity to get payback, I replied, sorry boss, I don't speak Spanish. Turned off my phone and went back to sleep. Update, sorry for holding on in the aftermath. I wrote this during my work shift and I was putting on the finishing touches. We had a server crash and I spent the next hour and a half trying to restore our backups and get the camera system up again. Update, aftermath. After I woke up and turned my cell phone back on, I had several missing calls from the hotel and 2 missing calls from our front desk manager. Good guy. I called back at the hotel that afternoon, shift picked up, and they didn't know anything, so I called my manager's phone. He answered and asked what was going on because the director was furious about me hanging up on him and that I was refusing to work. I explained to him the situation in regards to my bonus for speaking Spanish, and since the hotel was trying to hold me out, I was going to withhold performance. Anyone who's ever worked for customer service know how much damage withholding performance can do, even if it's just a little. In the end, my manager begged me to stay until our reservations people came in at 8 a.m. My shift ends at 7:20 a.m. I agreed on the condition that I would not check out anyone who spoke Spanish. He reluctantly accepted and said he would back me up in the following poop storm that would happen. What happened was the group came down for breakfast precisely at 6:40 a.m., finished at 7:10 a.m., give or take, and went back to the room to collect their belongings. At this time, the 2 front desk attendees of the morning shift had arrived, as well as our bellboy. Plus, there was me, my colleagues waiting to punch and go out. We had already started checking people out, and this day was particularly busy. We had 3 to 4 people waiting to be checked out, and it doesn't help that we have 3 computers for 4 people to work with another computer to use to check the cameras. When 7:20 a.m. came up, my colleagues quickly picked up his things and left, and I took over his spot. At this time, it was very few people in the group that started coming down, and they already had to wait since they were all checking out other people. A few minutes later, I got the first one, but told them I couldn't check them out since I don't speak Spanish, and asked them to wait for my colleagues to become available. In the end, I ended up refusing to service 10 or so people, which started forming a line right in front of the front desk, which only grew since other guests assumed they were in line to be checked out. My colleagues on the morning shift were not happy at all. The guests were less than satisfied, and when the first of our reservations people showed up at 8 a.m., I logged out, punched out, and went home. By that time, there was a 20 people plus line, waiting to be checked out by 2 overworked receptionists, only one which spoke Spanish. In the ensuing poop storm that happened, the hotel's director arrived at 8:30 a.m. in an attempt to minimize the anger of the human centipede who formed at the front desk, started chatting with the guests and otherwise trying to distract them so they would be less angry and avoid giving the hotel a poor review. I got a mild chewing out by my manager for poor work ethic instead of being written up. True to his word, he backed me up for the director call and HR for a meeting regarding my actions. You can't demand someone speak a language that you know they don't know, right? I still haven't gotten my bonus for speaking Spanish, and I let my manager know I will not be speaking any Spanish while on the job until they give in and give me my hard-earned bonus. Wow, that was a really good story. I was not expecting it to be that good. He got some really good revenge on him. Like, that is some of the best workplace revenge I've seen. But hey, they told him he can't speak Spanish, so he didn't speak Spanish, and that's what he did exactly what they said he couldn't do. If I was in his position, I would probably be doing the same thing. I would be like, no, I don't speak Spanish. You said I don't speak Spanish. It still sucks that he hasn't got his bonus for it. And now there's probably like a little bit of fuss in the workplace. But hey, what are you going to do? Sometimes you got to stand up for what you think is right and not just give in. Even if it's like hindering other people. You got to show people that you shouldn't be walked on. And $100 is really nothing to a big company. It's really absolutely nothing. But the last story is, you want me to see a doctor? As a teen, I worked under the golden arches of McDonald's. I was treated like poop on the daily, always catching the poop jobs, getting rotated at the last minute. It was Saturday night and I got off my shift and went to a house party. We drank and drank and drank like teenagers do, British teenagers. And come Sunday morning, I was hanging. 9 a.m., I was heading to the bus stop. My phone rings. My boss kicking off that I'm not in work. He altered the rota early this week and I hadn't noticed. Me, I'm too ill to be in. I've been throwing up. Boss, that's funny because the manager from the next town over just saw you at the bus station. Me, seriously, I'm genuinely ill. I should be okay tomorrow. Boss, no, you need to go to the doctor and get the all clear to come into work. Well, okay then. This is the UK. Doctor's appointments are free, so I booked one for the next day. I told the doctor the problem, I got drunk on Foster's and threw up, and then he asked me for a note declaring me fit for work. The doc explains this is not an NHS covered thing outside of mental health, and as my employer requested it, it would be a chargeable item from the practice. He asked who the employer is, and suggests that I should really require this. I call my boss from the doctor's office. Me. The doc says the certification is a chargeable thing. Boss, I don't care. Either get a certificate to return or don't come back. The doc hears and gets to work putting together a certification letter. He tells me not to worry about the cost this time. He prints it and pops up an envelope addressed to my boss and sends me on my way. I head in for my shift after lunch and hand in the envelope to my boss. 5 minutes later, he's screaming down the phone. Turns out, the dog had invoiced a franchise for the cost of the service. Somewhere in the region of £200. Is that 200 pounds? I don't know what that little E is. TLDR, boss insists I get certified to return to work. Gets a bill for it. Wow, I did not know that was a thing in the UK. But hey, she got her compliance. She did exactly what she was supposed to do and backstabbed him. Well, front stabbed him, I guess. She did it right in front of his eyes. Can I have some pocket money? Because I'm a kid too. 19 years old is still a kid. I posted this in another sub a while ago and many comments said it belongs here too. Well, here goes nothing. I am 19, female, have a little brother who is 8 and living with my parents at the moment. I'm still studying, so I cannot pay rent yet. But I do earn my own pocket money from part-time jobs. My father's 3 brothers and their family came to our town for vacation for 3 days over the weekend. They have not met me for years, so it's a big gathering, and they have been planning for a long time. That plan seemed to have the members split into 2 groups, the adults and the kids. I have been arranging to join the kids group. When I tried to protest, they insist that I'm a kid too. So I just had to submit to my fate. Clearly, they just wanted a babysitter, which they don't admit, because it's not babysitting if I'm just a kid hanging around other kids. For their 5 kids ages 5 through 10 while the adults get out and enjoy the reunion. So I spent the weekend babysitting a total of 5 kids. That includes organizing games to home entertain them, bring them to the science park and the likes for outings and food out of my own pocket, and just overall watch their safety and be an adult when needed. To be honest, it was quite fun, though tiring, when I sometimes had to raise my voice to make myself heard and drag the younger ones from the back so they wouldn't stray too far. I admit, I'm not really babysitter material. The kids seemed to like me, so I guess it went well too. However, I still would rather be hanging out with the other adults, or just having my weekend to my own. When my 3 uncles' families were leaving after the weekend, they gave pocket money to each of the kids, including my brother. My father also gave pocket money to each of my cousins. Almost as expected, there wasn't a share for me. I don't really care about the pocket money, they were just a couple of notes I can easily earn in a few hours. But I'm rather annoyed for the fact that, conveniently, I was skipped for being an adult this time. Nope, I couldn't hold that down. After all, I am a kid, right? I put the biggest smile and asked politely for my pocket money from my uncles and aunt-in-laws. They were a little taken aback. I said as sweetly as I could that I deserved pocket money for being a kid. They said so themselves. In all awkwardness, I got my pocket money. Needless to say, my parents looked like they had poop smeared across their faces. I got the biggest junk from my parents after they left. In their words, I am a major, insert a swear word, to have deliberately made my parents lose face. Whatever, what's done is done. In a few days, everyone moved on. And the pocket money just spent on some vanilla cream puffs, sugar rolls, and ice cream, which we all shared in the family. In other words, it's been transformed into a tab on everyone's weight. We are certainly going to hold them for a good while, especially me, because I am definitely not going to the gym to lose them. Wow, I can't stand when you're a kid whenever it's just super convenient for the other people. Younger adults are already really confused, like 18 and 19, you're just like, what the freak am I? Like the world's telling you you're an adult, you have the freedom to go smoke cigarettes, but not alcohol. And you have the freedom to go vote. But last year you had to raise your hand and ask to go pee-pee on the potty. What the freak? I'm gonna do a small one because I think I've only done like one of these small paragraphs once before. I want to see how good they are. You guys tell me if it's good or if it's not so good. Want to be a jerk face on field day? Not a long post, but a little story for the night. For those of you unaware, field day is a day in military where after work, troops, in my case, Marines, clean the ever-loving poop out of their rooms and barracks. Good section heads will go with the looks good, smells good, it must be good policy. My section, however, is not so lucky. For those of you familiar with the military, keep in mind that my entire section has been in the Marines for over 2 years minimum at this point. So we really weren't new anymore. We know what we were doing, but for some reason on this field day, our section head, not really our section head, but just a slightly less junior guy put in charge of inspecting, PTing, and everything our actual section head doesn't feel like doing, decided to make us field day till way later than we usually do. He wouldn't leave until he found something to fail us on, no matter how long it took. Then, instead of coming into our rooms on his own, he said, "Come get me when you think you're ready." Bet. Our section decided as a whole that we were just going to sit and ride out this night until he either comes to us or gives up and releases us. It's been 3 hours so far since then, and nothing yet. Turns out, this post was longer than expected, but if you made it this far, that's the end of my rant. I'll update in the comments. Update, 4 hours after we started cleaning, we finally got released at 10 o'clock at night. He caved and came to us, so it seemed we won that round. On top of that, he couldn't find a thing no matter how hard he looked. Victory for the Junior Marines. Wow, what a jerk. Some people just live to be a jerk for some reason. I don't understand that. Like, wouldn't you rather just, be happy and like, I don't know, enjoy yourself, or I don't know, enjoy someone else's company instead of being a jerk and have everyone talk about you behind your back? But that's just me. Here's another short one. Getting back at my employer. I was told to post this here. I am contracted to work at 8:45, but usually I get in around 7:20, so I can skip the traffic. Because of this, I usually start working because why not? The last couple of weeks have been frequent server outages, so it's been incredibly busy, so I've been non-stop working since 7:20 until 5:30 with my hour's lunch break. Well, 2 days ago, I took a 10-minute break to grab breakfast at 9 a.m. and my boss went ape poop, saying that I would either have to make up the time on my lunch or have to stay after work. So that being the turning point, I stopped working at 7:20, instead getting to work at 8:40 and making myself a coffee before I start. My boss tried to get me to start going back at 7:20, but there is no obligation for me to go in. TLDR, my boss wouldn't give me 10 minutes to grab lunch, so I'm no longer giving 7 hours free labor every week. Wow, nice little win. This is like, I wouldn't really call this malicious compliance, even though it kind of is. I would put it more under like petty revenge. Like this would be better on r/petty revenge because it's like it was revenge and it was petty. And that's gonna be all for today, you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this r/malicious compliance and these like shorter stories. If you like the shorter ones, let me know. If you like the longer ones, let me know. I don't mind doing either. I try to pick more obscure stories, like ones that don't look like they have been like read that much, and ones that are like, you know, a little bit more recent. Hopefully to cut down on, you know, the high population density of people reading these Reddit stories, especially with the robots reading them. The robots can like, you can make like 5 of those videos in like 6 hours. Probably you can make like 5 in like 3 hours, honestly. So let me know if you have any suggestions on the channel. Remember to like, follow, do all that, subscribe, come to the Instagram if you want to. We're going to be doing another r/malicious compliance video. We have done a nice little string of these videos and I am loving it. I think it was yesterday's video. I commented on someone else's comment and was like, these videos are just so satisfying. It feels like they're just handcrafted to be so beautiful. This just in. Mr. Edit Reading here, Reddit Reading's editor. Today we're going to be trying a little bit different of a video. We're going to try doing it without any of the words popping up. And let's see if you guys like this. If you guys like this, tell me down below. If you don't, if you want me to go back to putting up all the words, let me know so we can, you know, figure this out as Mr. Edit Readings so I can know what to do for Mr. Reddit Readings videos. Thank you so much and let's get on to the video. Let's go ahead and get onto the story with You Specified the Law, Mr. Lawyer. Back in 2014, I was a support analysis for a company that made and hosted medical screening applications and healthcare registries. One of the registries for the medical implants and covered England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. It was one of the largest of its kind in the world, and as such, received a data request from organizations and government agencies from all over the world. One of my pet peeves was people mentioning the Freedom of Information Act, FOI, repeatedly, as if we'd never heard of it. And they'd put in the subject line of any attachments, and if you in the email, you didn't actually need to quote the FOI. Just ask the dang question and we'll process it for you. Annoying, but nothing major. Then one day, I got an email that sent off the inner jerk in me. The email's from a lawyer in Edinburgh, and he had done the same thing, but with a slight difference. He quoted repeatedly the Freedom of Information Scotland Act. It was mentioned at least 6 or 7 times in the email, plus the subject line, comprising about 40% of the total text. Or so it seemed. The whole email was rather blunt, demanding, a touch patronizing, and ended with a threat of legal action if we didn't comply. Completely unnecessary, and I couldn't just let it go. I did some research to check my understanding and confirm my suspicions. He very specifically and repeatedly quoted the FOIs, and he is a lawyer, so he should know the law, right? I sent him an email acknowledging the receipt and did nothing for 28 days. On day 28, I sent another email advising the Medical Implant Registry of England, Wales, and Northern Ireland does not operate in Scotland, and therefore we don't retain or process any of the data that falls under the FOIs. I ended it by saying if he'd like to resubmit his request under FOI, we'd be happy to process it within 28-day limit. Update, to add little context, all the data / statistics that we provided was just adjusted from the surgeon / hospital, because even the best implant can fail if the surgeon does a bad job. The way he phrased the request, it could easily be interpreted that he only wanted the data that falls under the Scottish FOI, i.e. from Scottish hospitals, as he opened it with a threat. I chose that interpretation, and made him wait the maximum time to tell him. If he hadn't done that, I would have called or emailed to clarify his needs. Some paralegal from his office resubmitted a request about a week later. It was much narrower in scope and politely written. It was processed in about a week. Well, that's a good reminder to be kind to people. You don't always have to be so mean and forceful. And working in customer service in the past, like I used to have to work with customers, working with people can sometimes just like get on your nerves because some people are just so rude, thinking being rude will get your way. Even though, like, I worked somewhere where if like any one tiny little letter or number or anything was off, I could just immediately deny and like not give them their service. It was with money. Also checking IDs, if it was like anything smudged, if any of the plastic was ripped off, if there was one, you know, if they didn't have the middle name, if the birthday wasn't right, anything, if they were like super mean, I would just be like, no, I can't do it, I'm sorry. I would follow the policy to a T. But like normal people and nice people, like those small things, come on, you let that pass. But for the extremely rude people, oh, I am extremely sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am, but we are unable to take damaged identification cards. If you have another ID, I'd be happy to take that one. And they would just be going crazy. That's kind of my little malicious compliance. I would comply with a handbook a little bit too good. Alright, on to the next story. This is just one big paragraph. My dad, honestly, I've been looking at her for a bit. Enjoy reading these posts of various people's malicious compliance when I saw a few posts that suddenly reminded me of a story my dad told me back when I was about 8 or 9. My dad has always been the kind person that does exactly what you told him to. Malicious compliance, of course, as well as pretty funny, all-out friendly guy. So the story is probably set around 1987, something like that, when he's eating dinner with his mom, dad, sister, and quite possibly his older half-sister as well. His sister, my Aunt Sarah, was causing problems at the dinner table, being rude and cheeky, when my dad started up as well, the mouthy little poop that he is. Anyways, my grandma was already dealing with Sarah, and she did not want to have to deal with him as well. So she bluntly and quite frankly told him, get your butt in the room. Of course, when he was told this, he immediately goes into his room like requested, but instead of going in the room, my dad just stuck his butt in the doorway of the room and called down smartly, I've got my butt in my room. You only said my butt, so just my butt's in my room. Needless to say, his mom was not happy with that, and he got in trouble. But I say it was well worth it, don't you? P.S. This kind of stuff that my dad continues to pull, even to this day, much to my mom's chagrin, but my siblings and I quite enjoy it. The old, I will take this 100% literally. My wife loves to do this. That's good. That's something I would do when I was a kid. I was an annoying little kid, I'm not gonna lie. On to the very next story. Sure, let's ruin this expensive electrical equipment completely unnecessarily. This is a story that my friend John told me. John works for a utilities company that has a contract to install energy meters in domestic households across the country. His division covers an area with a population of about 2 million people. Every morning, he looks at his little company iPad to see if the list of his jobs has gone off in his van to remove the old meters and install the new ones. The company has a very ambitious target for all households in the country to have all these new meters by a certain date. As it goes with companies that do this kind of work, they regularly get audited. The employees' vans get checked for safety, the meters and equipment get doubled and triple checked, and so on. That fateful day was an internal audit for that locale. It was a beautiful April morning when the engineers covering John's area turned up to have their vans and equipment inspected. There were many people in vans, and John had to wait a while for their internal auditor, Mark, to approach. He pronounced that Mark left a trail of puzzled faces in his wake. Alright mate, Mark said, can you just unload the meters from your van and put them on the ground in front? John said, looking at the April sky. Really? I mean, it looks like it's going to rain. Nah, it'll be fine. No, really, the forecast this morning said that there was going to be rain. And also, the sky's looking a bit cloudy. Look, Mark snapped, I have loads of these tests while you guys are indoors being quizzed. Just do as I say and leave them on the ground. As he moved to the next guy, John made incredulous eye contact with another engineer, and they both shrugged as they started unloading the meters. Sure enough, as they sat in the conference room doing their knowledge and aptitude test, it started pouring, like really coming down. A few minutes later, Mark ran in, grabbed one guy, and they went outside. John is not only a responsible person in general, but also happens to like his job, so he spoke up. Shouldn't we all go out there and help? The manager in charge of the test says, tersely, Mark only got that one guy. John shrugged. Alright. After they finished what they were doing, they went back outside. The hundreds of electrical meters were still on the ground, and Mark was still running around, looking a little nervous. John called him over. Mate, what are you doing? None of these are usable now. No, Mark said. See, the ones that you put upside down will still be fine. A few other engineers came over and stared. Mark, John said, taking him by the shoulders. These are all electrical meters. They are not waterproof. Literally, none of them are usable now. Compliance would kick our butt if we even thought about putting them in the customer's home. You do realize, another engineer said, that because you insisted we dump our stuff into the rain, no one in this area of 2 million people will have a meter to fit in at least the next 3 days? As Mark looked around him, the reality of what he'd done dawned on him. John later described the color of his face to me as just pure gray. 6 months after John first told me this story, I asked him what happened to Mark. He said no one had heard from him again. Edit, someone brought up this comment, so I thought I'd add it to the main post. John and the other guys aren't engineers in the technical sense. They don't have engineering degrees, and they don't do any technical planning. However, their job title is meter engineer, and so I refer to them as such, out of familiarity. Hope that clears things up. Well, Mark is a jerk. Mark probably got fired, boom, on the spot. He might have called up his boss, confessed and got fired, or went on the run after he damaged everyone's stuff from 2 million people. I might just run away too and cower. That sucks, but hey, that shows you not to be a jerk and listen to people's good advice. Sometimes other people's advice can help. Some people who are really strong-willed have a hard time understanding that other people's input sometimes can be helpful and that you don't just always know best, you know? Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this r/Malicious compliance video. It probably is a little bit shorter since I've only been recording for 15 minutes. Usually I'm recording for 40 minutes, so this is probably going to be cut down really small. Yes, Mr. Edit Reading again. One more little commercial break. Let me know once again, do you like it with these little relaxing images in the background with just the title? Or do you want the words to keep popping up with, every paragraph that comes up? Let me know down below so I can pick the best option for you guys and your viewing pleasure. Thanks again, and goodbye. Back to Mr. Edit Reading or whatever his name is. Mice helped me fire my wicked step manager. Long post warning. I added all the background because it makes payoff so much better. The universe aligned, the stars just right for me in this story. My old coworkers and I still talk about it. Backstory. I was working at a popular coffee chain in high volume, swanky location as a barista. We were specifically trained to make fancier novelty drinks compared to other locations. I loved my team and my manager, and for the most part, everyone got along. Then, my manager informed us that she would be moving to another location, and that we would be getting a new store manager. This new manager, who we all call Jack, is an old assistant manager from this location. He trained here before becoming the store manager of his own location. Jack would be returning to be our new manager, since he had the experience in these fancier stores from training days. Everyone in the store dreaded his return. For what I gathered, Jack was an a-hole when he was an assistant manager. Within the first few weeks, things went downhill. He started writing up certain baristas constantly for infractions that others got away with. He slashed everyone's hours from full-time to part-time, claiming that our job description never stated we were entitled to full-time. One barista went from 39.75 hours a week to 16.5. Jack claimed our company had no write-up expiration date, so he was writing up baristas based on clock lateness within our time management software from when our old manager still ran the store. People went from a clean record to a final warning within one meeting with him. Those who had worked with him before organized themselves into a list of who would get fired next. We didn't suspect that there was a personal vendetta against certain baristas who knew him when he was an assistant manager. We knew there was. One by one, several people were fired, all in the order they knew they would be fired. Others found jobs elsewhere. It became a race against the clock. Either quit or wait to be fired for something trivial. We brought up these issues with our district manager, but he ignored them, slashing our hours and getting cornered, including cutting corners on cleaning standards. From proving to be beneficial to the district manager, he was not interested in helping us. I was badly burned by our drip brewer. He refused to help me fill out workers' comp report. He was too busy placing weekly orders. I had extremely bad cramps in my thigh and went to urgent care. I was one of the last walk-ins in the clinic and left after they closed. When I sent him a picture of the doctor's note, he googled the location from the letterhead and claimed I faked a note since the place was supposed to be closed. Jack belittled me and other baristas on the cafe floor. My mental and physical health suffered. When one of my good friends was fired, I quit with nothing else lined up because I feared I was either going to break down or get fired. This friend, Anthony, got me a job at my current workplace. After Anthony got fired, he struggled to make ends meet with just one job. I helped him out by preparing large batches of food and dropping them off at his workplace. I met his manager and got an interview the following week. I had been working at this place for probably 2 months when the most magical thing happened to me. The incident. I finished the closing shift of my current job and was passing by my old store, closed for the day, when I saw 2 mice running around the lobby. I filmed it. I guess cutting corners and cleaning the health standards was causing a bit of a rodent issue. In a rush of pin-up anger, watching my team get fired over nothing, watching Anthony struggle to eat, suffering at the hands of Jack myself, I posted the video to Instagram and tagged the store in it. I posted photos and links to the video on Yelp, Google reviews, the company page, the customer compliant email, everywhere. I figured at most, I was going to be the fly in his ointment and annoy him to the district manager. Then I sent the video of the mice to the Department of Health. A couple days later, the Department of Health served a coffee shop a notice saying they were preparing to do a full inspection. I heard this news from my barista friends. A couple weeks go by and my current job has a turn in management itself. We weren't getting our legally mandated half-hour breaks, and I am put on a 9-hour shift with no meals. Thankfully, HR was much more sincere than the coffee shop HR, so I arranged a meeting. I stopped by my old coffee shop before my meeting to say hello to a few friends who still work there. I noticed Jack and the district manager were there. I grabbed the water and sat down to organize my HR meeting notes. Not even a half hour later, the shift supervisor approaches my area and tells the cafe customers to leave, as the health department has shut them down. She turns to me and says, "Yes, it was your mice. They found out we had an infestation," then walks away. Jack and the district manager don't make eye contact with me. I gleefully return to my current workplace and tell Anthony about how I was actually there to see the justice happen. Justice that I started on my own hands. He tells my coworkers. Even my managers find out I shut down a whole store from one report. HR catches wind of the story before our meeting. It had never been in a more polite, apologetic HR meeting. My managers were reprimanded, and we had all breaks restored to us. All the departed, fired baristas took pictures in front of the Department of Health shutdown notice that was taped to the store door. The windows were shuttered up, and the place was vandalized several times. They started the cleaning process, and the inspector returned to clear it again. About 2 weeks after the store shut down, I got a call from the coffee shop's HR department. Apparently, whenever they have something like this happen, they look through the records of the store. During the mass exit and the seasoned baristas and the complaints made to the district manager and HR, they had a novel about my old cafe. The HR rep asked me why I left, and the first words to come out of my mouth are, I left because Jack the manager, and the district manager is complicit in his actions. They call all the ex-baristas, and a couple current baristas, for their stories with Jack, all negative. Jack was fired and banned from working with the company. He packed up and moved across country. The fancy location was taken from the district manager, and now he only oversees basic cafes. I got promoted in my current job to assistant director of the site to oversee HR complaint overhaul to improve the workplace, based on my knowledge of OSHA and state labor laws. Anthony and the other 5 baristas were offered their jobs back, which Anthony accepted. He's in a better financial situation now. TLDR, after quitting my barista job because of some really bad management, I filmed mice in the cafe and got the store shut down by the Department of Health, which resulted in an investigation that got the store manager fired. Wow, that actually, kudos to you. That is some great revenge. Like, that is some, like, revenge that you would, like, I wish I could get that type of revenge about when I was working at Wendy's. Wendy's was, like, my first real job when I was still kind of a younger teenager. Oh, I wish I could have done that to them because I hated working there and I hated those managers. They were so mean. Like, the first thing that they would do to new people was, if you're gonna cry, get it out now, because they were so mean. They were like, you're a little B, aren't you, huh? Shut up, you little B. And you're just like dumbfounded and they talk to you like that. And the new cashiers and the new workers would be like, oh my God, these people are so mean. I'd feel so bad for people that would come in and cry. I wish so badly that that could have happened. I wish I could have got that kind of revenge. I'm like living through this story right now. Good job to you. Alright. Enough praise for that last story. Let's see another one. You took $200, you lost $21,000. So most users of computers will probably have some experience with us. You know when you're online shopping and sometimes a box pop-ups and says click this, promo code, sign up, yada yada? Well, we know they are scams. By mistake, I first clicked the wrong X. They put a fake one on the top and I clicked it. I immediately shut down the page and I thought that was the end of it. Nope. So the site I bought a Hanukkah gift I was getting for my mother sold my credit card information to the pop-up. I activated that when I clicked the wrong X. I was a teenager, relatively new to checking account. I checked my statement for December and it was all well. I didn't check for the next couple of months because I didn't use it for anything. There should be no charges. I know better now. When I did check, I noticed that these small insignificant charges weren't mine. Always less than $10 and usually around $2. But the multiple charges added up and was well over $200. When I looked into this, I found the connection. I called the thieving company and told them they stole my information and are illegally charging my card. They didn't deny it, but they also didn't care. I wanted my money back. They refused repeatedly. I gave them so many chances to fix everything with just that. I eventually warned them that I would have to sue if they didn't want to give me what they stole. They laughed. Turns out there was a class action suit in progress, which my lawyer used as leverage in a quick payout. We sued for fraud and violation for federal communication laws. What they are doing is very illegal and happens every day. This included a lot of popular stores and websites, which were 100% in the wrong and committed a crime. And I was a child who brought her mother a gift. I won the case. I received a judgment of $21,000. I told them it would go away if they just refunded my $200, but they refused. They seemed to think of teenager threatening to sue a massive corporation that does nothing but break the law wasn't much of a threat. What they should have noticed, I was buying a Hanukkah gift. Hanukkah. Everyone I know is a lawyer. Good job to you. I got scammed one time on Amazon when I was a kid. What I did was I bought this, like, I thought it was like this extra awesome diamond, like it was like super pure, and they like were saying they had like an abundance of diamonds and they just needed to get rid of them for super cheap. I think I spent like $150 on it, and they were saying it was like a $10,000 diamond. And like I go to bed that night, I wake up and I'm like, oh, I hope my diamond shipped. I hope it's on the way. I go and look, the listing is gone. Like it's gone from all my Amazon history and stuff, but like the money is also taken out of my account. And I was a teenager and I was still doing like my first job. So I didn't know what to do. I thought like, well, I just lost. I wish I would have like known. I could have just asked for a refund or called my bank or something. But I was like maybe 16 or 17. And I was just like, God dang it, I got scammed. I used to be pretty gullible, actually. Another note on that, this one like government program or something like that said if I send them $300, they'll send me $500 back for like a grant. Like, and this was like I was new in college too. I think I was like 17, and like I was like, all you need to do is send us like $300. We'll give you like 5,000 back. I was like, wow, that's a really good deal. And this is like some kind of government thing. They cannot scam me. So like I asked my mom about it and I asked my sister and they were like, you really are trying to get scammed like that? They're like, you really that dumb where you're going to get scammed? I was like, this can't be a scam. I looked it up online and I was like, I was really that dumb. Okay, enough of my stupidity. Let's read one more this is one little paragraph of story. Someone did not give me their end of a trade, so I spent the next 2 years getting them stiffed in trades and losing them a lot of money. Back like 3 or 4 years ago when I played Magic the Gathering, I traded with this one guy for a card, Ugin the Planeswalker, which at the time was worth like $50. It was a fair trade, and me being dumb 15-year-old, I was like, let him promise to bring the card the next day. He was 1 year younger than me and went into the same store. Well, he never gave me the card, and what was I gonna do about it? Bring it to small claims for a $50 card. After a few months, I acted like I forgot about it and acted like his friend. This guy is pretty dumb and always relied on me and other people who looked up the price. So whenever he wanted to trade with me or someone else, I would always volunteer to look up the price and I would always add like 25% to the other side trades. I did this for like 2 years until a few months before I moved to college. He wanted to sell his cards to a store, and I learned that over time, he had slowly traded his valuable collection away to the value of pretty much a bunch of cardboard. I laughed so hard when I saw this. I let him know that I had sold about 90% of my own collection online for a bit over $4 grand, and then told him what I did, and never talked to him or went back to that store again. Wow, nice, quick and sweet. I like that little revenge, just subtly over time scamming him, not knowing that he's like losing money over and over. Never be a scammer. People aren't as dumb as you think they are, except for me when I was doing that where I thought I was gonna get $5,000, but this is not about that. But man, that sucks. I like buy and sell Pokemon cards a lot too. Actually, I just passed the $1,000 threshold on Mercari for selling Pokemon cards. I can't say I probably wouldn't do the same thing if that happened to me. I did not feel bad for that guy at all. Wait a minute, where was I? This is literally like an hour later. I started playing with my dog out of nowhere. I think this is the end of the video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you guys have any suggestions for a sub that you want me to cover, just let me know down below. I always take excuse me, suggestions. I hope I see you guys next time, and goodbye, my lovely.